Celestial Immortal Clan. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 551 Living on the Street. Lin Changqing waited for them to calm down before continuing. In the future, I will not stay here often. So you will still be mainly managed by Su Mingying and Zhao Linyu. When I am not here, they will assign tasks to everyone. If you have any problems that you cannot solve, you can also ask them for help. After that, he introduced Su Mingying and Zhao Linyu to the new spiritual plant masters and asked them to go up and say a few words. Lin Changqing's meaning was actually to leave these people to them to manage. He himself did not have so much time and energy to manage these people. After they finished speaking, Lin Changqing randomly arranged 8 spiritual plant masters, temporarily under the leadership of Liu Jiangchao, mainly to help them complete the task of planting spiritual tea. He also emphasized that everyone was not allowed to harm any spiritual insects or spiritual beasts in the space. Then he asked Su Mingying and Zhao Linyu to take them away and arrange accommodation for them. Seeing that there was nothing to do, he sent the 3 Liu family members away, and then Lin Changqing took the twin sisters of the Li family back to the yard. Seeing that both of them were a little nervous, Lin Changqing couldn't help laughing, and then he said, "Don't be nervous, you have completed this mission very well. It can be said that it is far beyond my expectations, and it is considered to be overfulfilled. So I am very satisfied and decided to give you some rewards. I brought you here, just to ask, do you want anything?" Hearing Lin Changqing say this, the 2 sisters were very happy. Now that the 2 of them can get the master's recognition, their situation will be much better in the future. The 2 sisters discussed for a while, but they didn't discuss what they wanted. In the end, the problem came back to Lin Changqing. He thought for a while, and then he said, "How about this? I will give you 300-year-old red fruits each. And the pills you need for your usual practice will also be provided to you in full until you reach the great perfection of key refining. And when you build your foundation in the future, I will provide you with foundation building pills or foundation building fruits until you successfully build your foundation." What do you think of this reward? Li Qiyu and Li Keishu were really happy when they heard it. With Lin Changqing's promise, they finally felt at ease. So they said in unison, "Thank you for the reward, Master. I am very satisfied." Lin Changqing nodded and continued, "Okay. You should practice more in the future. Get up to the foundation building stage as soon as possible. You will need to go out to perform tasks in the future, so improve your cultivation as soon as possible." After that, he gave each of them 3 zoo fruits and some elixirs to improve their cultivation in the key refining stage, and let them go back to rest. In this way, only Lin Changqing was left in the yard. He made himself a pot of green jade tea and drank it while waiting for Su Mingying or Zhao Linyu to come back. He wanted to give them all the spiritual seeds and sundries he bought today. In fact, when he was patrolling the space just now, he had already discovered that there were still many important spiritual medicines and spiritual plants that were not protected. So he decided to find a 3rd-level magic array with a larger coverage area as soon as possible to isolate and protect the entire central area. After all, this group of new cultivators did not sign a mission contract with him. To put it bluntly, they were a little out of control, so he still had to be on guard. After about an hour, Su Mingying came back first. After Lin Changqing handed all the things to her, he exited the inner space. After returning to the magic circle of the camp, he carefully recalled what happened today. After finding no mistakes, he began to practice the Thunder Sutra. The next morning, after he recovered the 2 array plates and recalled the 2nd-level purple crystal scorpion, he set off. There was not much time left. He planned to fly directly to the puppet gate, which would take about 1 or 2 months. Of course, he would pass through 2 or 3 market towns on the way, but if it was not necessary, he would not enter the market town. Because every time he went in, he would waste 2 or 3 days, so he simply did not enter the market town and flew directly to the puppet gate. In this way, Lin Changqing slept in the open air and flew for nearly 2 months. He had no danger along the way. That day, he finally arrived at Wanpan Mountain, where the puppet gate was located. Of course, Wanpan Mountain is the mountain gate of the puppet gate. Lin Changqing can't enter now. He can only go to Wanpan Market at the foot of the mountain first. Even though he hadn't entered the market yet, Lin Changqing knew that there must be a lot of people inside. After all, there was a long queue at the entrance of the market, and it was estimated that there were at least 200 cultivators. This was no joke. They were all people who were applying for entry and exit certificates and preparing to enter the market. Lin Changqing was already worried now. There should be a lot of people from the surrounding areas, and he didn't know if he could find a place to stay when he entered the market. He came just in time, because tomorrow is the Yuanying ceremony. However, with his cultivation level, he was not qualified to enter the puppet gate to watch the ceremony. At most, tomorrow afternoon, he would follow everyone to the sex square of the puppet gate to listen to the new Yuanying ancestors' opening ceremony. But before that, he had to find a place to stay first, otherwise he might have to sleep on the street. After waiting in line for more than an hour, it was finally Lin Changqing's turn. He handed in 2 low-grade spirit stones and successfully obtained the entry and exit certificates. But as soon as he entered the market, he regretted it a little. I can't say that there were a lot of people here, but the situation was almost the same. Now he was sure that there would be no hotels to stay in the market, as they would be full of monks. With so many monks, even if there were 10 times more hotels in the market, it would not be enough. So he no longer had any extravagant hopes. However, he still wandered around the market. He planned to find out where the street stalls were first, and then find out how others solved the problem of accommodation. After wandering around for a long time, he did not find the street stalls, but saw a tea house first. Lin Changqing had an idea, went over to ask for a pot of spiritual tea, and then found a place to sit down. At this time, there were quite a few people sitting in the tea house, which could be said to be quite lively, so he listened while drinking tea. However, after listening for more than an hour, he heard a lot of messy news, but for him, there was only one useful piece of news. That is, he could go to the residential area of the market and look for people who were willing to rent out the vacant rooms in the yard for short-term rental. Many people have tried to solve the problem of accommodation in this way. Chapter 552 Expensive Puppet. Although the price is not cheap, it is indeed a way to solve the accommodation problem. After hearing this, Lin Changqing did not dare to delay. After paying the bill, he immediately took action and began to run around in the residential areas of various areas, looking for people who were willing to rent out their vacant rooms. Fortunately, his luck was pretty good. After asking only a dozen families, he found one that was willing to rent out. But the rent is not cheap, 25 low-grade spirit stones a day. Even so, he could only pinch his nose and accept it. In fact, he could also find a place to camp outside the market. But the problem is that there are many cultivators nearby. Who knows who you will meet outside? Lin Changqing believes that there must be a lot of cultivators from several nearby domains coming to this Yuanying ceremony, and there will definitely be people who take the opportunity to do business without capital. He doesn't want to encounter some messy things. After paying the spirit stones, Lin Changqing finally has a room of his own. It's still the old rules. After carefully checking with divine sense and finding no problems, he arranged 2 layers of magic arrays. After that, he went out to have a spiritual meal and came back to rest. He had been traveling for nearly 2 months. Even if he was not tired physically, he was a little tired in his heart. Tomorrow, Yuanying's Henjin would give a lecture. This was a rare opportunity that could not be missed. So he planned to have a good rest today and go early tomorrow to get a better position. In fact, when he was queuing at the entrance of the market just now, he heard a piece of news that the puppet sect had set up 3 arenas in front of their mountain gate. They corresponded to the 3 realms of key refining, foundation building, and purple mansion. If anyone could pass through 9 levels in a row, they could join the inner gate of the puppet sect. However, Lin Changqing was not interested in joining the puppet sect, so he just listened. But he believed that there would definitely be many casual cultivators who were interested in this. After all, it was also a rare opportunity for them to ascend to heaven in one step. At that time, they could go and see the excitement. The next morning, after completing the basic training, Lin Changqing left Tuanpan Market and headed towards the mountain gate of the puppet sect. At this time, there is no need to ask for directions, just follow the crowd. After more than half an hour, they have arrived. He saw at a glance that there were 3 huge arenas, lined up in a row, distributed in front of the mountain gate of the puppet gate. And there were a lot of monks surrounding the arena. Lin Changqing took a closer look and found that there were people fighting on 2 of the arenas. But after watching for a while, he was not interested. Now on the 2 arenas, There were monks in the key refining stage and the foundation establishment stage fighting. The arena representing the Purple Mansion was empty, with no one. Not to mention the fight between the key refining stage monks. In Lin Changqing's eyes, they were just a group of chickens pecking at each other. And there was no highlight in the fight between the foundation establishment stage. The monks attacking the arena on the stage first used talismans, and then a few spiritual flying swords to string them back and forth, plus their own constant movement. It can be seen that the monks attacking the arena are still very experienced. However, he failed in the end, defeated by the combined attack of the puppet sect disciples and the two puppets. In fact, what Lin Changqing wanted to see most was the battle between the Purple Mansion stage cultivators, but unfortunately no one came to attack the ring. After watching for a while, several people had already attacked the two rings, but unfortunately the results were not very good. He even suspected that these three rings were places for the puppet sect to show its strength to the outside world. In this case, if there is no very powerful means, it is impossible to pass the 9 levels. Therefore, he was not interested in watching anymore. It was a complete waste of time. So he couldn't help looking around and found that many cultivators had gathered in front of the mountain gate. Most of the people who had just traveled together were also here. Without a certain identity or an invitation, it is impossible to enter the mountain gate of the puppet sect now. It is estimated that if these people want to go in, they will have to wait until the Yuanying ceremony is over and the news engine starts to preach before they can go in. Because there were so many monks gathered here, and some of them had nothing to do, they simply found an open place and started to set up stalls. Others followed suit, so a stall area soon formed in front of the mountain gate, and attracted many monks to hang out. Lin Changqing was most interested in this kind of stall, so he also went to visit. Unexpectedly, after just looking at a few stalls, he saw more than a dozen puppets on a stall. After glancing at the stall owner, he found that this was a stall of a disciple of the puppet sect. Lin Changqing was very interested in this, so he squatted down to take a closer look. The puppets on this stall were of various shapes, but most of them were in the shape of monsters. For example, wolves, tigers, leopards, eagles, and so on. Of course, there were also human-shaped puppets, but Lin Changqing sensed these things and found that they were all first level. So Lin Changqing couldn't help but ask, "Dao, why are there only first-level puppets here? Do you have second-level puppets for sale?" The stall owner glanced at Lin Changqing, then said, "Sorry, I don't have second-level puppets for sale. However, if Dao really wants to buy a second-level puppet, I can also help you to connect with those inner sect brothers who have second-level puppets. But second-level puppets are not cheap. Are you sure there is no problem with the spirit stones in the storage bag?" Hearing the stall owner's tone so loud, Lin Changqing felt a little unhappy, but this was someone else's territory, and he didn't want to cause trouble now. So he continued, "I just arrived at Wenpingfang market yesterday, and I don't know the specific market price of the second-level puppets here. Please help me introduce the market first, so that I know if there are enough spirit stones in my storage bag." The stall owner opposite was a little speechless, but still said, "Okay. I guess you must have come here from a long way away to join in the fun. Since you have traveled thousands of miles to come to our puppet sect, I will tell you about the price of the second-level puppet. Here, there is a more common standard, that is, the price of an ordinary second-level early-stage puppet is about 50,000 low-grade spirit stones. If it is a well-made, high-quality material second-level early-stage puppet, the price can even go to 100,000 low-grade spirit stones. As for the second-stage mid-stage and even the second-stage late-stage puppets, the price is doubled and doubled again. It is simply not acceptable to ordinary cultivators. Now you understand, right? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 553, New Uses of Puppets. Hearing him say this, Lin Changqing was greatly surprised. He quickly asked, "Why is this so? Why is the price of a second-order puppet so expensive? If what you just said is true, does it mean that an ordinary second-order puppet in the late stage will cost 200,000 low-grade spirit stones? Even those well-made puppets will cost 400,000 low-grade spirit stones. With the price you said, you can go to one Bao pavilion to buy a magic weapon. The stall owner glanced at him with the eyes of a bumpkin, and then said, "That's right. You understand it very correctly. But have you ever thought that even if I give you a magic weapon, you can't use it with your current cultivation? But on the other hand, if you buy a puppet with these spirit stones, you can have a loyal and reliable late-stage foundation-building combat force that doesn't need to eat, drink, or take care of. Think about it, isn't it a good deal? Compared to giving you a magic weapon that you can only look at but can't use, isn't it more practical? And if you only have a magic weapon but no cultivation, if you encounter an enemy, you're just giving away treasures to others. So buying a foundation-building combat force is the most cost-effective. Think about whether I'm right." After listening to the stall owner's remarks, he was simply eye-opening. Of course, Lin Changqing didn't think that what he said made sense. It was that the stall owner's ability to deceive was the most powerful among all the cultivators he had met. Unfortunately, for Lin Changqing, this level of deception was really nothing. Compared with those success masters in his previous life, it was far worse. So he decided to observe it first. So he said, "I didn't expect the second-level puppet to be so expensive, then I really can't afford it. I'd better take a look at these first-level puppets. These can't be that expensive, right?" The stall owner nodded. He knew it would be like this. Even within the puppet sect, it was the same. There were also many fellow disciples who couldn't afford the second-level puppets. Many fellow disciples were still using the first-level late-stage puppets, so he didn't think it was strange, but felt that this was the normal situation. Then he continued, "The puppets at my stall at the initial stage of the first order cost 2,000 low-grade spirit stones. The puppets at the intermediate stage cost 5,000 spirit stones, and the puppets at the late stage cost 10,000 spirit stones. You can take a look at them. If you buy a lot, I can give you a discount. These things are really not cheap. Even the puppets at the initial stage cost close to the price of a low-grade spirit item." However, Lin Changqing did not need these first-order combat forces, so he did not look at the puppets in the shape of monsters. Instead, he took the 3 or 4 human-shaped puppets at the late stage of the first order on the stall and studied them. However, after looking at them for a while, he could not figure out what they were, so he asked, "Dao Arnao, can you give me a general introduction to this kind of human-shaped puppet?" The stall owner may have felt that he was really going to open a business, so he was much more enthusiastic towards him. He quickly introduced, "Compared with the puppets in the shape of monsters, this kind of humanoid puppet can do some relatively delicate things. For example, it can do things like plowing the land, sowing, harvesting, and even helping with some chores. And in terms of combat effectiveness, it is not weaker than the puppets in the shape of monsters, and it is even more flexible. So the prices are relatively higher, and each one costs about 12,000 spirit stones." After that, the stall owner cast a spell on a humanoid puppet. The puppet immediately turned into a real person's size, and in front of the two people, it began to demonstrate a series of actions such as plowing the land, sowing, and harvesting. Then the stall owner continued, "It is not convenient to demonstrate offensive and defensive spells here, so I won't let it demonstrate. You can buy it back and try it yourself. It guarantees that the combat effectiveness will not be weaker than that of ordinary late-stage key refining cultivators." Lin Changqing was speechless. He didn't expect that puppets could have such a function. He always thought that puppets could only help in fighting. He didn't expect that they could also help with work. Isn't this similar to the robots in the previous life? Seeing this, he was still quite interested and prepared to buy one to try it out. Of course, the combat power of this puppet was nothing to him, but he still wanted to buy one to play with. After all, it was a big toy. Moreover, this thing could be given to his sister in the future, and I believe she would definitely like it. So he said to the stall owner, "The combat power of the late first stage is of no use to me, but we have been chatting for so long, and we have some friendship. So I decided to buy one for you, but 12,000 spirit stones is too expensive. Please give me a discount." The stall owner was delighted when he heard it, knowing that he was really going to open a business. So he waited in his mind and said, "Since you said so, then for the sake of our friendship, I will give you a discount of 1,000 spirit stones." Lin Changqing shook his head and said, "No. It's still too expensive. The highest price I can accept is 10,000 spirit stones. If you agree, you have to teach me how to control the puppet." When the stall owner heard it, he hesitated for a while, and finally agreed to the price. Lin Changqing chose a humanoid puppet that he liked and paid 10,000 spirit stones. The stall owner gave him a jade slip, which recorded a simple method of controlling the puppet. After checking it out, he put the jade slip away. He would study it carefully when he had time. After saying goodbye to the stall owner, he was about to continue shopping. Unexpectedly, the area closest to the mountain gate suddenly became lively. Many cultivators began to enter the mountain gate and rushed up the mountain road. Lin Changqing immediately realized that this should be the new true Lord who was about to start preaching. He immediately rushed over without thinking twice. This place is the mountain gate of the puppets. In order to show respect, no one dared to fly up, and everyone walked. The road was decorated with lights and colors, especially the trees on both sides of the mountain road, which were full of red lanterns. These lanterns were marks, and everyone moved forward along these marks. Relying on his advantage in physical cultivation, Lin Changqing finally followed the first wave of cultivators and rushed all the way to a huge square. In the center of the square, there is a huge lotus platform, and tens of thousands of cushions are placed around the lotus platform. If I guessed correctly, this place should be the sect square of the puppet sect, and it is also the place where the sermon will be held this time. However, this group of people were not the first to appear here. In front of them, there were many disciples of the puppet sect who had already occupied the front position. Chapter 554, Unprecedented Harvest. At this time, he didn't care about so much, and he couldn't hesitate. Lin Changqing directly found a seat relatively close to the front and sat down. In just a short while, 30,000 to 40,000 monks came from behind, and the square immediately became crowded. It was really lively and spectacular. After about a quarter of an hour, the square was basically full of monks, and some even had no seats and stood at the edge of the square. At this time, everyone suddenly heard a melodious jade chime sound. Ding, 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 9 consecutive sounds, and all the monks present consciously kept quiet and dared not make any more sounds. Then, a middle-aged monk suddenly appeared on the lotus platform, and then a unique aura of a high-level monk swept across the whole venue. Then a giant monk who was serving next to the lotus platform spoke a word, and this word immediately spread throughout the venue. The puppet sect's new nascent soul cultivator, 9 Shadows True Lord, is opening the altar to preach the Dharma. All disciples should perform a ceremony to thank the teacher. As soon as the words fell, everyone stood up and very respectfully performed a ceremony to thank the teacher to the 9 Shadows True Lord on the stage. This tradition does exist in the world of immortal cultivation. After all, when someone opens the altar to preach the Dharma, you listen to his method. So more or less, it has a bit of the meaning of master-disciple teaching, so perform a ceremony to show respect and gratitude. Jiang Zhenjin chuckled and nodded, saying, "All right. Everyone, please sit down. Thank you all for coming all the way to Puppet Gate to support me. Today, I will share with you some of my insights from my practice so far. I will start from the introduction of Qi into the body and talk all the way to the great perfection of the Golden Core stage. And after each major realm, I will leave an hour for everyone to ask questions. It is estimated that it will take about 5 days to finish everything. If anyone can't listen, just quietly leave and try not to affect others." After hearing what Jiang Zhenjin said, everyone present shouted in unison, "I will obey the order." Hearing this huge answer, Jiang Zhenjin nodded with satisfaction and officially began to preach. There is a very wonderful substance between heaven and earth. We cultivators absorb and refine this substance. It can make us fly, move mountains and seas, and even catch stars and moons. This substance is spiritual energy. With spiritual energy, we can become immortal cultivators, and the first difficulty in cultivation is to draw the energy into the body. At this time, the cultivators are still mortals and cannot bear too much spiritual energy. If they rashly swallow spiritual objects, it is a very unwise behavior. So in general, the level of the individual spiritual root qualifications of the cultivators determines the speed of drawing the energy into the body. But it is not absolute. In my opinion, there are still some additional methods to speed up this process, so that, when Jiang Zhenjin began to speak, Lin Changqing calmed down and listened carefully with full concentration. Jiang Zhenjin spoke very well, using easy-to-understand language to explain all the problems encountered since the beginning of cultivation, bit by bit. Lin Changqing was fascinated by it, and gradually forgot the environment he was in, and madly absorbed the experience and insights taught by Jiang Zhenjin. The key point is to understand all the problems that will be encountered in the foundation building period in advance. It can be said that all the problems that may be encountered before advancing to the Purple Mansion stage have been solved in one go. Even advancing to the Purple Mansion stage, he felt that he had a 10% or 20% more confidence. However, since Jiang Zhenjin talked about the cultivation content of the Purple Mansion stage, he began to not understand it. But he is still insisting now. This opportunity is so rare that he can't waste it in vain. So even if he doesn't understand, he won't leave. In addition, Lin Changqing also activated the only image stone in his hand and used it to record the Purple Mansion stage and the content of the elixir formation. In this way, he persisted for a total of 5 days until he heard the melodious jade chime again. Ding, ding, ding. There were 9 consecutive sounds, and the cultivators who were still immersed in it suddenly realized that the sermon had ended. At this time, the giant and cultivator next to the lotus platform shouted again, Jiang Zhenjin's sermon is over. All disciples, please perform the thank you ceremony. Lin Changqing's gains this time can be said to be unprecedentedly huge, and he came very timely, which can be said to have cleared all obstacles for him to advance to the Purple Palace. So he was very grateful in his heart, so he respectfully performed a disciple ceremony to Jiang Zhenjin on the stage. Although he was not a disciple of Jiang Zhenjin, for him, this time he did receive a great favor from others. He felt that performing a disciple ceremony was not excessive, it was just to express his gratitude. And many cultivators present did the same thing as him, performing the disciple ceremony, and he was not the only one who did so. Of course, Jiang Zhenjin himself did not care about these, just nodded to everyone in the audience, and then disappeared. At this time, everyone knew that they should leave, but this time, they were not as hurried as when they came. They all walked slowly down the mountain. Maybe many cultivators are still savoring the content of the sermon just now. At this time, Lin Changqing was also in the team going down the mountain, and he was also in a leisurely manner. However, this time, he had not rested for a total of 5 days and 4 nights. So he didn't want to go anywhere else. Now Lin Changqing just wanted to go back to find a place, have a spiritual meal, and then go back to the yard to have a good rest. Now he was extremely fortunate that he had found the yard to stay in advance, otherwise it would be troublesome, and there would not even be a safe place to rest. Following the large group of people, he returned to Wenpingfeng City safely. He found a place at random, enjoyed a large portion of animal offal, and then went back to the yard to rest. This rest lasted until the next day. He slept for a total of 6 or 7 hours this time, and finally recovered all his energy. So after checking the room again, Lin Changqing entered the inner space. During this period of time when he was on the road, he had never entered the inner space again, so after he came in this time, he immediately flew into the air and patrolled it, and found that the inner space had undergone a very huge change. At least it didn't look as desolate as before. Su Mingyang, Zhao Liao and the others should have divided the areas for the spiritual planters, with each person responsible for a large area. That's why he can see the spiritual fields separated by a patch. He is very satisfied with this result. After a visual inspection, it is preliminarily estimated that the current green area should occupy about 1/10 of the entire space. Chapter 555, The Unlucky Liu Jiangan. Lin Changqing had just flown a long circle, and there should be quite a few people who saw him coming back, but he was too lazy to go down and say hello to them. So he went straight back to the yard and called back Su Mingyang and Zhao Liao through the contract. Then he fiddled with the tea set, and in a short while, the two of them came back. And Su Mingyang was very discerning and took the tea set on her own initiative. Master, please have some tea. Yes. After 3 rounds of tea, Lin Changqing opened his mouth and asked, what has happened in the inner space in the past 2 months? Are there any abnormalities in the 3 Liu family members? Su Mingyang thought about it for a while, and then said, the 3 Liu family members are fine, and no abnormal behavior has been found. As for this group of new spiritual plant masters, they have settled down now. They are all working hard to cultivate spiritual fields and earn various cultivation resources. Nothing has happened during this period. On the contrary, several spiritual plant masters with relatively low cultivation were accidentally stung by spiritual bees. When Lin Changqing heard this, he couldn't help laughing. It would be good if he could get used to it and settle down. As for the unfortunate guys who were stung, they must be too bored to fiddle with the spirit bees. But he didn't say anything. Such trivial matters were not worth his attention. At this time, Zhao Liyu also said, "Master, we have planted about 20,000 acres of land now, most of which are spirit rice and common first-level spirit medicines. However, because the number of spirit planters is limited, most of the spirit plants can only be allowed to grow naturally. And if you want to have a harvest, it normally takes 1 to 3 years." Lin Changqing nodded. He had been mentally prepared for this situation. But he still said, "I know about this situation, but it is still necessary for the spirit planters to continue to cultivate the spirit fields and try not to waste the space in the inner space." Su Miniang and Zhao Liyu both nodded and agreed after hearing this. He suddenly thought of the Li sisters, so he continued to ask, "How are the 2 sisters of the Li family?" Su Miniang smiled and said, "Both sisters are very smart, and they are doing well now. Moreover, each of them has taken 100-year-old Zhu fruit, and now they have reached the 6th level of key refining." Lin Changqing thought about it, and still ordered, "Their tasks will be halved in the future. Let them have more time to practice, and you should take care of them more often. After all, they have signed a contract with me, so they are naturally more trustworthy than others. You should take care of them more in the future." Su Miniang and Zhao Liyu dared not disobey Lin Changqing's order, so they both agreed. Then Lin Changqing used the contract to summon the 3 people of the Liu family. Because this courtyard was protected by a magic circle, Su Miniang went out and brought them into the courtyard. "Subordinates, meet the master. Subordinates, meet the master. Subordinates, meet the master." The 3 people saw Lin Changqing and hurriedly greeted him. He waved his hand, indicating that there was no need to be polite, and then he took a special look at the 3 people from the Liu family. He found that the other 2 people looked quite normal and their breath was stable. Only Liu Jiangai looked very pale and his breath was a little decadent. So Lin Changqing was worried that something might happen to him. This was the only team maker in his hands, so he must not die suddenly. So he asked, "Liu Jiangai, what's wrong with you? Why do you look a little bit wrong?" Liu Jiangai was very happy to hear Lin Changqing take the initiative to ask about his situation. He felt that the master still cared about him. That at least proved that in the eyes of the master, he was still useful, so he quickly asked for help. "Master, I have been in the past 2 months. Every once in a while, my head will suddenly hurt for a while, but it will get better after a while. There will be about 3 to 4 times a day. It makes my rest and practice very bad. If it goes on like this, I think I will either die or go crazy, and then I will not be able to serve the master." When Lin Changqing heard his description, he knew what was going on. He was definitely injured in his consciousness. And suddenly remembered that when he was interrogating him, he did not cooperate, so he asked the purple crystal scorpion to give him a beating. Because there were too many things to do at that time, he forgot to treat him, so he said, "Okay, don't worry, I know what happened. Wait, I will give you some 100 flowers soul intoxicating wine. When you return to your residence, take it and sleep and you will be fine." When Liu Jiangai heard this, he was extremely happy. Only those who have been tortured know how painful he is. He quickly thanked Lin Changqing and said, "Thank you, master, for saving me from the dire straits. I will make more tea for you in the future to repay your kindness." Lin Changqing waved his hand and said with a smile, "Okay, no need to thank me. Your spiritual injury is also caused by me. Now that you are one of us, it is only right for me to help you with the treatment. As long as you make more spiritual tea in the future, it will be the best reward from me." After that, he looked at Liu Jiangchao again and asked, "Old Liu, how many acres of spiritual tea have you planted? Why did I just take a look and it seems that there are not too many? What's going on?" Liu Jiangchao quickly explained, "My master, it's because of the problem of spiritual seeds. The green jade tea trees we are planting now do not have spiritual seeds. The 1,500 acres of green jade tea planted now are all from the original dozens of acres of tea gardens. The heart and roots are cut and used as spiritual seeds, which is why there are more than 1,000 acres of them. However, we dare not cut any more now. If we do, those dozens of acres of tea trees will not survive. So we must let them recuperate for a period of time before we can continue to cut roots as spiritual seeds, so that's why." After hearing the reason, Lin Changqing didn't have a good solution. He could only say, "Okay, you guys are in charge of the details. Just don't kill the spiritual tea trees that I planted myself. But if the spiritual seeds can't keep up, you guys can't be idle. You can help to open up and plant some ordinary spiritual rice, spiritual medicine and the like. In short, don't be idle, find something to do for yourself, and don't waste your skills as second-level spiritual planters. When the three Liu family heard it, they could only agree. But the three of them were very helpless, but since Lin Changqing had given the order, they dared not disobey. Chapter 556, Meet the Auction Again. Lin Changqing took out a little bit of Beihuzuhan liquor from the Zuinun heavy water bottle. This time, he controlled the amount specially. It was only about 1/3 of the normal amount, which should be enough for Liu Jiangayan to heal the injuries on his soul. But there was no need to think about advancing. It was definitely not enough. At most, it would make his cultivation a little bit better. The three Liu family members had just arrived not long ago and had not made any contributions. He would not reward them casually, let alone provide spiritual objects for them to advance. In his place, if they wanted to get spiritual objects, they had to make enough contributions to him, otherwise, they would have to stay like this forever. After handing the things to Liu Jiangayan, the three Liu family members were sent away by Lin Changqing. Seeing that there was nothing to do, he was about to exit the inner space, but suddenly he thought of the first-level puppet he bought. So he took it out directly, and gave it to Su Miniang together with a jade slip that recorded the puppet. Then he introduced, "This is a puppet of the late first stage, and its control method. This thing can not only be used for fighting, but also for work. Basically, it can be used for plowing, planting, picking, and harvesting. You and Zhao Lin you can try it when you are free to see if it is more convenient and trouble-free to use puppets in the future. If so, I will get a batch of them into the inner space." After giving the order, Lin Changqing left the inner space. After returning to his room, he left the art and went directly to the street, heading straight for the Wanbao Pavilion. Lin Changqing wanted to go to the Wanbao Pavilion to inquire about the market and ask when the auction would start. The building of the Wanbao Pavilion was really easy to identify, so he didn't even need to ask for directions and found it easily. However, at this time, there were so many monks coming in and out of the Wanbao Pavilion that when he entered, no one came to greet him. Fortunately, just when Lin Changqing was thinking about whether he should go directly to the third floor, a young shop assistant finally came to greet him. "Senior, welcome to Wanbao Pavilion. I am the second-class clerk of Wanbao Pavilion. You can just call me Xiao Wu. I am so sorry. There are so many distinguished guests coming in the past 2 days, and the pavilion is a little short-staffed. That's why I have been negligent. Please forgive me, Senior." Lin Changqing was a little unhappy at first, but after listening to the explanation of the shop assistant Xiao Wu, he felt much better. And he could sympathize with him, so he said, "Nothing. When is your auction scheduled to start?" When Xiao Wu heard this, he knew that Lin Changqing wanted to participate in the auction, so he quickly said, replying to the senior, "The time of the auction is scheduled for the day after tomorrow morning at sea time. If the senior has our Wanbao Pavilion, a third-level VIP card, you can spend 5,000 spirit stones to reserve a private room. So that the senior doesn't have to squeeze in the hall at that time, and if there is a private room, it will be more private if you take pictures of some more precious spiritual objects." When Lin Changqing heard it, he understood what he meant. Isn't it that if you take pictures of more precious spiritual objects, some private rooms can be used as cover? So it is not easy to be targeted. But now they are still downstairs, and he doesn't want to express his opinion casually, lest he really be targeted by someone with ulterior motives. So he said, "Let's talk about the box later. I want to buy something. Please take me up first." Xiao Wu also reacted instantly and said, "Okay. Senior, please follow me to the third floor." After that, he led Lin Changqing to a box on the third floor. After the maid served the spiritual tea and left, Xiao Wu smiled and asked, "Senior, what spiritual object do you want to buy? Or, if you have something you want to send for auction, you can take it out. I'll ask the expert in the pavilion to come and take a look." Hearing this, Lin Changqing looked at him a little surprised. He had forgotten that spiritual objects could be sent for auction. But he was not prepared for the moment, so he would think about this issue after he figured it out. He asked Xiao Wu, "Do you have a third-level trap array or a third-level defensive array with a relatively large coverage area?" Xiao Wu heard it and said in embarrassment, "Senior, the pavilion has mobilized 3 third-level arrays this time, but they are all prepared for auction, and there is no way to sell them to you now." Lin Changqing was speechless when he heard it. It was really a bad time. He should be able to buy it at ordinary times. He couldn't help asking, How many spirit stones do you need for this kind of third-level array at ordinary times? Xiao Wu hesitated for a moment, but still answered, to buy a third-level array, you need a VIP card of level 3 or above, and the prices of different arrays are also very different. In my impression, the cheapest defensive array requires about 500,000 low-grade spirit stones, and a good killing array even requires 800,000 to 1 million low-grade spirit stones. After listening, Lin Changqing nodded. With a standard, he knew it in his mind. Now that he can't buy it directly, he can only go to the auction to try his luck. Suddenly, he thought of the puppet price mentioned by the puppet sect disciple that day, and he wanted to verify it. So he said, do you have any second-level or third-level puppets for sale? Tell me about their prices. Xiao Wu finally nodded and said, yes, there are some ordinary second-level puppets. The warehouse now has stocks of early, middle and late second-level puppets. Their prices are around 50,000 to 200,000 low-grade spirit stones. But there are only a few third-level puppets in the pavilion, and they can't be sold now. They have all been transferred to the auction list. Before asking this question, Lin Changqing had already vaguely guessed that this would be the result. It seems that Wanbao Pavilion has very high expectations for this auction, and all the good things have been transferred to the auction. Seeing that Lin Changqing didn't say anything, Xiao Wu continued to ask, Senior, how many second-order puppets do you need? Lin Changqing glanced at Xiao Wu, and then said, if they are all ordinary puppets, forget it. The ones that are really useful to me must be at least second-order late-stage puppets. And they must be made of exquisite materials and well-made. Forget about these ordinary ones. In fact, although these second-order puppets are useless to Lin Changqing himself, he can destroy them casually. But they are useful to his family and the entire Lin family. Imagine if the Lin family had a few second-order late-stage puppets as trump cards, the foundation would instantly become several times stronger. Just like the family crisis last time, it would be easy to deal with it. Chapter 557, The Opportunity for 800 to Advance. There are several second-stage late-stage puppets. At least in the area where the family is located, they will no longer be bullied by others. It can also play a key role in guaranteeing the long-term inheritance of the family. So he has to buy some, but the auction will be the day after tomorrow. He doesn't want to spend all the spirit stones here now, and plans to wait until after the auction. But Xiao Wu has been with him for so long, and he feels embarrassed not to buy anything. So he said, do you have any thunder attribute spirit objects or thunder attribute spirit tools here? If so, you can bring them to me and help me register for an ordinary box. After that, he handed his VIP card and 5,000 low-grade spirit stones directly to Xiao Wu. Xiao Wu was overjoyed when he heard it, and quickly agreed, then excused himself and left to prepare what Lin Changqing needed. Lin Changqing was left alone in the box. To be honest, he had just thought about taking advantage of this opportunity to take out something to bid. But then he thought about it and gave up. He didn't really need to obtain spirit stones by auctioning spirit objects, so he simply didn't join in the fun. After a while, Xiao Wu came back with a tray. He said with a smile, Senior, I'm really sorry to have kept you waiting. This is your VIP card and the voucher for entering the auction room. Please keep it. After that, he respectfully handed the things back to Lin Changqing. Lin Changqing nodded, took it, and glanced at the jade voucher. He found a few words on it, B325. He immediately understood that this should be the number of his box. So he didn't say anything else and put the voucher back into the storage bag. Then he took the initiative to say, there should be thunder-attributed spiritual objects on the tray, right? Please introduce them to me. If they are suitable, I will take them. Xiao Wu was very happy to hear this, and he smiled and said, thank you for your care. I didn't bring the low-level thunder-attributed spiritual objects. I specially selected 2 high-level spiritual objects for you. Take a look. After that, he took out a golden horn from under the red cloth on the tray and placed it in front of Lin Changqing. Seeing this thing, Lin Changqing had an idea, and he immediately thought of his own thunder horn. I wonder if this thing can be used to help the thunder horn improve its grade. After sensing it with his spiritual sense, he had an idea in his mind. He took it in his hand and played with it. He could clearly feel the golden thunder power contained in the golden horn. At this time, Xiao Wu introduced, Senior, this is the highest grade thunder attribute material I can find in the warehouse. I looked at the records, and the introduction above is that this thing is the horn of the 3rd level golden horn thunder rhino, which can be used as the main material of the third-level magic weapon. It is a very rare thunder attribute spiritual material. I wonder if the senior is satisfied. Lin Changqing nodded and said, not bad. It's quite rare. However, I am really surprised that you didn't send this thing to the auction. Xiao Wu smiled awkwardly after hearing this, but still explained, Senior, you are joking. After all, thunder cultivators are extremely rare in the world of immortal cultivation. I don't know if there will be any thunder cultivators participating in this auction. Therefore, although this thing is a third-level spiritual material, if it fails to sell at the auction or is sold at a low price, it will be a big loss for Wanbao Pavilion. That's why we didn't put it on the auction this time. Lin Changqing didn't want to know these things, but he really wanted this thing, because he felt that this golden horn should be very useful to Baobei. So he said directly, okay, I know, tell me the price of this thing. Don't make it too expensive. If it's too expensive, I can't afford it. Xiao Wu hurriedly said, Senior, you misunderstood, the price was set early, this is not something I can decide. According to the record, the price of this third-level Golden Horn Thunder Rhino's horn is 200,000 low-grade spiritual stones. Although Lin Changqing was prepared, he didn't expect it to be so expensive. This price is equivalent to the price of an ordinary magic weapon. However, he also understood the thinking of Wanbao Pavilion. This kind of spiritual object is specially sold to cultivators in need, so the price cannot be cheap. For the first time, I felt that Wanbao Pavilion was so cunning, so he didn't express his opinion immediately. Instead, he said, did you only bring this one? Do you have anything else? Take them out and let's take a look. Lin Changqing didn't express his opinion on this golden horn. Xiao Wu was so upset that he was in a state of panic. However, he still tried his best to adjust his mood, took out the last thing on the tray, and placed it in front of Lin Changqing. He introduced, Senior, this is the second-level top-grade spiritual weapon, the Wind and Thunder Wings. After the sacrifice, it can be equipped on the back to help increase the flying speed. And it has another very important function, which is to activate a composite spell, the Wind and Thunder Escape. This spell can instantly increase the escape speed to more than 10 times, and it is the first choice for escaping in an emergency. The Wind and Thunder Escape can only be activated with a mana of wind or thunder attributes, but how long it can last depends on the amount of mana of the user. This thing is very practical, and Lin Changqing likes it very much. It can even be said that this is a spiritual weapon tailor-made for him. You know, he now has 98 thunder acupoints. The total amount of thunder attribute mana in the whole body is several times the chaos mana in the Danshan. Lin Changqing's current physical cultivation has reached the late stage of the second stage, and he has only cultivated the 5 elements Chaos Sutra to the middle stage of foundation building. So it is normal that the two kinds of mana differ by several times. And in the future, with the expansion of the thunder acupoints again, the gap between the two may be even greater. Lin Changqing suppressed his messy thoughts and said, I can take both of these things, but you have to give me a suitable price. Of course, if I feel they are too expensive and not worth it, I can take neither of them. When Xiao Wu heard this, his expression instantly became rich. Surprise, hesitation, entanglement, dilemma, and hesitation all flashed across his face. Lin Changqing wanted to laugh, but he had finally grasped the rhythm and didn't want to ruin it, so he still forced himself to control it. Finally, after careful consideration, Xiao Wu said, Senior, these two things will cost you a total of 220,000 low-grade spirit stones. This is the best price I can get for you. Chapter 558, Meet the Big Mac again. Seeing that Lin Changqing didn't say anything and looked non-committal, Xiao Wu could only bite the bullet and continue, and for this price, I also took a certain risk. I guess I need to explain it to the shopkeeper after the deal is done. This price was acceptable to Lin Changqing, so he didn't want to bother with it anymore, so as not to cause any more trouble. So he said directly, okay. Let's do it at the price you said. Hearing Lin Changqing's words, Xiao Wu finally relaxed. He poured out 220,000 spirit stones from his storage bag, as well as his VIP card, and handed them to Xiao Wu. After Xiao Wu used a secret method to record the amount of consumption on it, Lin Changqing packed up and left. He declined Xiao Wu's kindness to send him to the door, and left alone in a low-key manner. Since he knew that the auction would be the day after tomorrow morning, he didn't have to rush. It was still early, and he planned to stroll around Wanpingfang City. In fact, The most important thing is that he wants to find out if there is a gambling stone shop. Recently, in order to hurry on the road, he hasn't been to make a fortune for a long time. It just so happens that this auction will cost a lot of spiritual stones, so he just took advantage of this time to get himself some medium and upper grade spiritual stones. The scale of this Wanpingfang market is quite large. He walked around 2 streets by himself, but couldn't find a gambling stone shop. In the end, there was really no way, so he could only ask the shop assistants in the roadside shops for directions, and then it took another quarter of an hour to find the place. However, the good news is that the scale of this gambling stone shop is very large. As soon as Lin Changqing saw their storefront, he knew that his harvest this time should not be too small. But there are also bad things, that is, there are too many people. When he walked in, there was not even a shop assistant who was free to come and receive him. In this small gambling stone shop, at least 200 or 300 monks squeezed in, and there were really a lot of people who selected raw stones, cut stones, and watched. As a result, many raw stones were blocked by people, and there was no way to see them at a glance, so he could only look at them row by row. Fortunately, he was many times faster than others in selecting raw stones. If he didn't see the halo after scanning a row, or if the raw stone emitting the halo was too small, he would just look at the next row. After looking for a while, he finally saw a suitable one, a top-grade raw stone the size of a millstone. It was emitting a bright yellow halo, and Lin Changqing hurriedly pretended to go over and fiddle with it for a while. Then he pretended to be very satisfied and quickly called a shop assistant over, saying that he would buy the raw stone and asked him to invite the boss or the shopkeeper over. The shop assistant picked up a large amount of performance and was very happy. He immediately took the order to find someone. Finally, a shopkeeper came and discussed with Lin Changqing, and finally made a deal at the price of 12,000 low-grade spirit stones. He handed over the spirit stones, declined the shopkeeper's suggestion to open the stone for free, and then put the raw stone away. Then he continued to look. There were too many monks in the gambling stone shop, and he couldn't stay until the end to settle the bill together. He could only buy one if he liked it. Then he spent more than 50,000 spirit stones to buy 3 large raw stones in succession, but they were all medium-grade spirit stones. He estimated that if he could solve all of them, he should have about 7,000 to 8,000 medium-grade spirit stones, and this was only the harvest from half of the visit. After he collected the raw stones, he continued to visit, but it was a bit too high profile to spend 60,000 to 70,000 spirit stones at once. He felt that someone was watching him intentionally or unintentionally. Therefore, he decided to reduce the number of times he made a move, and would not buy medium-grade raw stones for the time being, and only buy high-grade raw stones for the rest. However, at this time, the stone-cutting area suddenly became boiling, and then people there shouted, "High-grade spirit stones, it's a wood attribute high-grade spirit stone." At this time, everyone present rushed to the stone-cutting area, including Lin Changqing, who couldn't help but go over to watch the excitement. Then someone shouted not to continue solving, and then many people began to offer prices to the owner, and those who had the strength wanted to take this high-grade raw stone. However, the owner of the goods was still immersed in the joy of having unraveled the top-grade rough stone, and ignored those people. After a long while, he came to his senses and said to the stone-cutting master, "Master, that's it, no need to unravel it anymore." Then he took the top-grade rough stone back from the stone-cutting master, and then quickly left the gambling stone shop. At this moment, almost 1/10 of the people followed him out. The remaining many monks, as if stimulated, began to pick up rough stones one after another, and the gambling stone shop's business suddenly became much more popular. This was also good, and it immediately led away those monks with ulterior motives. Lin Changqing was secretly happy in his heart, so that he could let go and continue to buy. He hurriedly seized the time and continued to look at the rough stones. Not long after, he spent another 18,000 spirit stones to buy 2 relatively large medium-grade rough stones. And in the place closest to the inside, he finally had a huge harvest again. He found a big guy, a top-grade rough stone that was not much different from the previous giant. It also emitted a bright green halo, just like the piece of top-grade spirit stone that was just solved. After seeing this big guy, Lin Changqing couldn't walk anymore and forced himself to control his excitement. He walked over and pretended to study it for a while before asking the shop assistant to find the shopkeeper again. Both of them had contact with the shopkeeper several times, so they were old acquaintances. In view of the fact that he bought so many raw stones, After the two of them discussed, Lin Changqing bought this giant raw stone for 60,000 spirit stones. Such a big commotion here also attracted the attention of many people. He just wanted to keep a low profile now and didn't want to cause trouble. So after quickly paying the spirit stones, he took the big guy and left the gambling stone shop. After leaving the door, Lin Changqing used his spiritual sense to scan it and found that there were 3 or 4 groups of people following him. In fact, even if he didn't use his spiritual sense to search, he knew that someone must be following him just by thinking with his heels. So he started wandering around the streets and alleys, and it took him more than 2 hours to shake off the tail behind him. He found a place to change his clothes and mask, and then returned to the rented yard. After entering his room, Lin Changqing finally breathed a sigh of relief. In fact, he didn't want to stay here. If he didn't want to participate in the auction, he would have left this place early. Because now here, there must be a lot of purple mansion and golden elixir cultivators, and there are probably several Yuanying cultivators. Chapter 559, Something's Going On. Under the eyes of so many high-level monks, Lin Changqing really felt insecure. That's why he was so cautious. He tried not to cause trouble if he could, and he tried to keep a low profile if he could. Otherwise, if he changed to an ordinary environment, he would have led the garbage following behind him to the outside of the market and killed them. After checking the room and confirming that there was no problem, he activated 2 formations and then directly entered the inner space. Lin Changqing had just been here last night, so he was too lazy to go out. Through the contract, he summoned Su Miniang, Zhao Liu, and the 2 sisters of the Li family to the yard. Then, he threw out the 5 large pieces of medium-grade raw stones in the storage bag and asked the 4 of them to help with the stone removal. Lin Changqing himself came to the deep pit and threw the giant piece and another smaller piece of high-grade raw stone into the deep pit. After thinking about it, he threw the 2 Liu family monks who had been left in the spirit beast bracelet down together. Anyway, they were of no use. Keeping them would only waste space. This time, he simply dealt with them all at once. Actually, they could have been left behind, but the problem was that these 2 people had no special skills, and they were both in the foundation establishment stage. Lin Changqing didn't want them to recognize their master. Without control, if they caused damage in the inner space, his loss would be huge. But he couldn't let them go, so he made up his mind this time and threw them directly into the deep pit. In his eyes, all the robbery cultivators deserved to die, and he would never kill them wrongly. After dealing with these, he returned to the yard. Seeing that Su Miniang and the other 4 were each handling a piece of raw stone, he made himself a pot of green jade tea. Then he watched them work, and after a while, Zhao Liu was the first to scream. Then he shouted happily, "Master, come and have a look, this piece I have unraveled as a medium-grade fire spirit stone. It is so big, I estimate that at least 2,000 medium-grade spirit stones can be unraveled." However, Lin Changqing already knew this result, so he just said lightly, "I know, you just unravel it all, I will see later." Lin Changqing has seen a lot, so he didn't react much. But Su Miniang and the 2 sisters of the Li family were different. They had never seen it before, so they couldn't help but gather around. Lin Changqing didn't urge them. After they satisfied their curiosity, they would not be so surprised in the future. Sure enough, the 4 people studied for a while, and after they had enough fun, they went back to deal with the raw stones in their hands. After he drank 2 more cups of tea, he heard Su Miniang cheering. Then he shouted loudly, "Master, this piece of raw stone of mine also produced a medium-grade spirit stone. However, this piece of raw stone is of gold attribute. It is estimated that there should be more than 2,500 medium-grade spirit stones after it is unraveled." Lin Changqing just glanced at it as before, and then said lightly, "I know, unravel it all." In the following time, the 2 sisters of the Li family also unraveled the medium-grade raw stones one after another, which contained water-attributed and earth-attributed spirit stones respectively. Su Miniang and Zhao Liu had a relatively high level of cultivation. So it took them about an hour and a half to completely unravel the raw stones in their hands. Then Lin Changqing asked the 2 of them to unravel the last piece of raw stone. In this way, it took more than 3 hours in total, and all the 5 medium-grade raw stones in his hand were unraveled. Lin Changqing estimated that this was equivalent to about 12,000 medium-grade spirit stones. Adding the spirit stones in his own storage bag, it is estimated that there are about 1.2 million scattered spirit stones. With so many spirit stones, the auction will definitely be enough. and he has already thought about how to pay the bill. If he wins a spiritual object, he will first take out the undivided middle grade spiritual stone ore to pay the bill. Then he will use the middle and lower grade spiritual stones to pay for the remaining shortfall. In this way, he doesn't have to exchange spiritual stones specifically, and I believe that one Bao pavilion should not be too outrageous. When he took away the 5 completely unlocked middle grade spiritual stone ore, Su Miniang and the other 4 were still reluctant to part with him. In the end, in order to comfort them, Lin Changqing rewarded each of them with 2 middle grade spiritual stones, which was considered a little sweet. Then he withdrew from the inner space. It's good to have subordinates. For such things, you only need to speak, and you don't have to do it yourself. The auction will be held the day after tomorrow morning. He plans to go to the street stall square here tomorrow to take a look. So many cultivators came to this Yuanying ceremony, and it happened to be the auction of Wanbao Pavilion. It is estimated that many cultivators will dispose of the things they don't need and exchange them for spiritual stones to participate in the auction. So these 2 days are definitely a good opportunity to pick up bargains, so no matter what, he must go to the street stall square to take a look tomorrow. After making up his mind, he began to practice the Thunder Sutra. The next day, after Lin Changqing completed the basic practice, he left the art and walked towards the street stall square. Yesterday, he wandered around in the market for more than 2 hours, and he had already figured out where the street stall square was. So it didn't take long for him to find the place smoothly, but he didn't expect that it would be very lively here early in the morning. And there are a lot of stalls, but because there are too many people, there is no way to estimate how many stalls there are. Seeing this situation, he didn't bother so much, and simply went in and started to stroll. He actually likes this kind of environment the most. After all, many of the good things on him come from street stalls. So he is really keen on visiting street stalls to pick up bargains. Unexpectedly, he saw a good thing after just looking at a few stalls. This is a stall with a lot of sundries, all kinds of messy things. Magical instruments, spiritual instruments, elixirs, spiritual medicines, secret manuals of exercises, and even materials from monsters are all sold. The good thing he found was a black sphere, the size of a walnut, that emitted a blue-black halo. There was not just one of these things, but 3 in total, but only one of them had a halo. Lin Changqing squatted down and took the 3 small black spheres in his hands to study them. So, with his experience as a second-level spiritual plant master, he immediately determined that these 3 small black spheres should be the seeds of some spiritual plants. However, his knowledge was still too shallow, and he had no way to determine what kind of spiritual plant these were. He only knew that their grade should be very high. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 560, Dark Unknown Spiritual Seed. But for some unknown reason, they have now lost their activity and become useless dead seeds. Only the one that emits a halo still has a little bit of activity, which is hidden very deeply, and there is a very small possibility of survival. But for others, it should be very difficult, but Lin Changqing is 70% to 80% sure that it will survive. So he asked the stall owner, Dao Arao, what kind of spiritual seeds are these 3? The stall owner looked at him and said, I don't know. These spiritual seeds suddenly appeared in my storage bag at some point. So I put them out directly, just to see if anyone can seriously understand their origins. Dao Arao, ask about them. Do you know what kind of spiritual seeds these are? When Lin Changqing heard this, he immediately knew it. These things obviously belonged to others before, and they suddenly appeared in his storage bag. But this stall owner is not easy to deal with. Until now, he still wants to trick Lin Changqing into talking, wanting to know if he recognized this kind of spiritual object. Lin Changqing shook his head and said, I don't know this thing either. As a spiritual plant master, I saw an unfamiliar spiritual seed and asked a question. Besides, these 3 spiritual seeds, if I'm not mistaken, they should have basically lost their activity. I believe you should be able to sense it yourself. The possibility of taking root and sprouting after planting should be extremely small, or even impossible. When the stall owner heard it, he took the spiritual seeds in his hand and sensed them carefully. He really couldn't sense any vitality, and he couldn't help but be very disappointed. But he suddenly had an idea and asked, "Then fellow Taoist, are you still interested in them now?" When Lin Changqing heard it, his heart beat wildly. Fortunately, he knew not to give the stall owner too much information. So he said lightly, "Although I don't know what kind of spiritual plant it is, it's already dead now, and it won't grow if I buy it back." "Then you can buy it, or not. If the price is cheap, buy one and take it back as a specimen. In the future, I will know what kind of spiritual plant it is when I have the chance, and it can be regarded as a broadening of my horizons. But if the price is too expensive, forget it. Anyway, I have already memorized its appearance." The stall owner was speechless when he heard it, but now he could recover a little loss. He must seize the opportunity. So he thought for a while and said, "Then you give me 1,000 low-grade spiritual stones, and these 3 spiritual seeds will be yours." Lin Changqing shook his head and said firmly, "I don't want it, I only want one. It's just a spiritual seed specimen. What do I need so many for? And I will pay a maximum of 200 low-grade spiritual stones to buy one, and I won't take more." The stall owner was really worried that he didn't want it, so he quickly agreed. Lin Changqing gave him 200 spirit stones, then picked up the spirit seed that emitted a halo, put it into the storage bag casually, and turned away. Although there was no expression on his face now, he was already very happy in his heart. There are so many kinds of spiritual medicines and spiritual plants in the world of cultivating immortals, and no one dares to say that they know all of them. But this thing is obviously a high-level spirit seed. He bought it for 200 spirit stones, so he made a profit anyway. He forced himself to control his emotions and not think about the spirit seed for the time being, because he had just visited a few stalls. There are at least thousands of stalls in the back, waiting for his visit. But with the spiritual objects in Lin Changqing's hand, there are not many things on this stall that can attract him. He only occasionally buys some spiritual medicines that he likes, and some more interesting or novel small things, which are prepared to be given to his sister in the future. So he can know if there is anything that attracts him on the stall with just a glance, so he looks very quickly. In more than an hour, he had already looked at more than 600 stalls, and finally saw something interesting on a stall. A gourd-shaped spiritual tool, with a small sign next to it, which reads second-level kindling water. This was exactly what he needed to practice the kindling guansha technique, and he forgot to ask about it at Wenbao Pavilion yesterday. When I saw this thing today, I finally remembered it and asked quickly, "Fellow Taoist, how much do you sell this kindling water for?" The stall owner saw that business was coming, and quickly replied, "How many portions of kindling water do you need, fellow Taoist? I have the highest quality kindling water here, and each portion requires 1,800 low-grade spirit stones. If you buy more, it can be slightly cheaper." After hearing this, Lin Changqing quickly asked, "One portion of your kindling water is 36 drops, right? Give me 10 portions first. There should be a discount for this quantity, right?" When the stall owner heard this, he immediately smiled and said, "That's right. Each portion is 36 drops. Fellow Taoist, buy so much at a time, I will charge you 1,600 spirit stones per portion. What do you think?" Lin Changqing could accept this price. After all, this was second-grade spirit water. However, he still said, "Fellow Taoist, you only need to answer me one question, and I will give you the 10 spiritual waters you want at the price you said." The stall owner hesitated for a moment, and still said, "Ask me, I will tell you as long as I can answer it." Lin Changqing nodded and asked, "Where did this second-level green spiritual water come from? Since there is a second level, is there a third-level green spiritual water?" Hearing this, the stall owner breathed a sigh of relief, and then answered directly, "These second-level spiritual waters were found by my spirit-seeking rat in an underground cave. As for whether there is a third-level green spiritual water, I don't know. But all the second-level spiritual water there has been collected by me, and there is nothing there anymore." The stall owner's words were half true and half false, and Lin Changqing would not believe them all. The first half was probably true, but the latter part was definitely false, because as long as the environment for the precipitation of spiritual water was not destroyed, one day, that place would always accumulate some more green spiritual water. So that place was a natural cornucopia, and the stall owner would never tell anyone. Lin Changqing was too lazy to waste words with him, so he paid 16,000 lower-grade stones directly, then took a wine pot and took away 10 portions of second-level kindling water. Now he knows that this kind of kindling water is not made by the cultivators themselves, but is a congenital spiritual object, so he knows what's going on. In the future, when the family members practice the Kingling Guanxia technique, they still need to find Wanbao Pavilion to solve the problem of continuous supply of Kingling water. If he continues to walk around, there will be nothing else except some first and second level spiritual medicines. After 3 hours of walking around, he still feels a little unsatisfied, but it is estimated that starting from tomorrow, this place will not be so lively anymore. Chapter 561, Third Level Dragon Blood Fruit. After leaving the street stall square and finding a place to have a spiritual meal, Lin Changqing returned to the rented yard. After activating the 2 magic arrays in the room, he took out a black spiritual seed for research. But after looking at it, he really couldn't see anything special, so he simply took out the spiritual plant master's inheritance in his hand and looked it up. He spent a lot of time comparing the 3rd and 4th level spiritual medicines and spiritual plants included in the inheritance, but none of them matched. The closest one is a 4th level spiritual plant called the Endless Demon Flame Tree. Its spiritual seed is black, but its shape is relatively flat. However, since the roots of this spiritual seed have not been found, Lin Changqing decided to plant it directly without thinking. So he entered the inner space with a thought, summoned Su Miniang and Zhao Liu, and handed the spiritual medicine he had just collected to them. He flew to the edge of the space, found an open place, and planted this unknown spiritual seed. Worried that the planting would not be successful, Lin Changqing also specially put a ball of Beihuzuhan wine in the Zuinun heavy water bottle, poured it on the spirit seed, and then covered it with black soil. Next, it was time to perform the birth-inducing technique, but he did not do it himself. Instead, he summoned Lu Yuan through the contract and asked him to perform the birth-inducing technique 10 times in a row at the designated location. But in Lin Changqing's feeling, the spirit seed did not change at all. After thinking for a while, he asked Lu Yuan to perform it 10 times again. However, there was still no reaction at all. At this time, he didn't dare to mess around anymore. He could only summon Zhao Liu over and tell her what happened just now, and asked her to remember this place, and wait for about 10 days and half a month, and bring Lu Yuan to perform the birth-inducing technique again. Until the spirit seed successfully takes root and sprouts, Lin Changqing means that the task of taking care of this thing in the future will be handed over to her. After Zhao Liu agreed, he withdrew from the inner space. He didn't plan to go out for the rest of the time, so he practiced various magics in the room. The next morning, he completed the basic practice tasks and brewed a pot of green jade tea for himself. When the time was almost up, he changed himself into a hidden spirit mask, and this mask was the 3rd level hidden spirit mask he got in Linyun City. The main reason was that Lin Changqing knew that there must be many high-level cultivators participating in the auction today. It is estimated that Yuanying's Henjin and Jinden's Henren will definitely not make things difficult for a small cultivator like him. He might bid for some 3rd level spiritual objects, which would cause some competition with the Purple Mansion cultivators. So for safety reasons, it is just right to bring this 3rd level hidden spirit mask. After he was ready, he left the yard and headed towards Wanbao Pavilion. There were many people along the way, walking in the same direction as him. When they arrived at the door of Wanbao Pavilion, there were many cultivators surrounding them. As far as he knew, when participating in the auction of Wanbao Pavilion, staying in the auction hall should not require additional fees, and he didn't know why these people didn't go in. But these had nothing to do with him. He stepped directly into the Wanbao Pavilion and showed his jade certificate at the door. Someone came to greet him immediately and sent a maid to take him to the door of the private room of B325. Then he used the certificate to open the private room and found that it was not big inside, just the size of an ordinary room. But he could see the auction hall, and there was a special jade plate on the table in the room. He knew it was used for bidding at first glance, and it was very simple to use. He could bid by inputting a little spiritual energy or mana. He didn't even have to speak himself, which protected the privacy of the VIPs in the private room and reduced the possibility of exposing their identities. It was really thoughtful. This was much more advanced than Qingai Unjiao. I remember the last time he followed his grandfather and the clan leader to attend the auction, he had to bid himself at that time. After figuring out how to use the jade plate, he sat in the private room and waited. There was also a plate of ordinary spiritual fruits on the table next to him. Lin Changqing was not polite, he just picked it up and started to chew it, looking at the crowded and noisy auction hall below. It was estimated that there were at least more than 10,000 people. He was glad that he had a small private room, Otherwise he would have been the same as the cultivators below. Fortunately, the waiting time was not long. After about 3/4 of an hour, everyone realized that the time was almost up, and then gradually quieted down. Then a graceful and very beautiful female cultivator walked to the auction table. She said, "I am Yang Fenken, and I am honored to meet all the Taoist friends. Thank you all for coming to participate in this auction of Wanbao Pavilion. I hope everyone can bid on the spiritual objects they like. Now, please welcome the first spiritual object of today, the second-level top-grade defensive spiritual weapon, the Xianjing Jade Pendant. Everyone here should know this thing, so I will not say more. The starting price is 1 spiritual stone, and each bid increase must not be less than 100 spiritual stones." As soon as she finished speaking, the auction hall below was filled with bidding sounds. But this had nothing to do with Lin Changqing. He had at least 7 or 8 such spiritual tools, so he had no interest in it at all. He just watched the people below keep raising the price, and finally it was sold for 35,000 low-grade spiritual stones. Then 9 top-grade spiritual tools were auctioned in succession. The emotions of many foundation-building cultivators in the auction hall were directly mobilized, and it was considered a small climax. Then the next things were relatively ordinary, but for ordinary foundation-building cultivators, they were also rare good things. And the auction speed of spiritual objects of this level was very fast. In about an hour, it was already the 300th lot. All were sold quickly, without any unsold, and the final transaction price was higher than usual. As the 301st lot came on stage, Lin Changqing was refreshed and immediately became serious. He knew this thing very well. He had seen it in the Inheritance of Spiritual Plant Masters yesterday. At this time, Yi Fenken introduced with a smile, "Everyone, please take a good look at this treasure. The third-level dragon blood fruit is also known as the longevity fruit. Even if you swallow it directly, the first one can increase your lifespan by about 30 years. Swallowing the second one can increase your lifespan by about 15 years. The third one can only increase your lifespan by 5 years, and the fourth one will be ineffective. So the most cost-effective way is to ask a third-level alchemist to refine it into a third-level dragon blood longevity pill. The effect will not be much different, and more people can take it. The starting price of this treasure is 1 spirit stone, and each bid must not be less than 10,000 spirit stones." Chapter 562 Golden Fruit. As soon as Yi Fenken finished speaking, the whole place was boiling. After all, lifespan is never enough for a cultivator. Among the more than 10,000 people present, how many people are about to die? This fruit of longevity is simply their only chance of survival. So you can imagine how many people will go bankrupt to get this dragon blood pill. When Yi Fenken just finished speaking, Lin Changqing directly entered a price of 300,000 low-grade spirit stones. Unexpectedly, after it was sent out, it stayed for less than 2 breaths, and it was immediately surpassed by other people's bids. And the price soared straight up, and in just a short while, it had exceeded 1 million low-grade spirit stones. And the upward momentum could not be stopped at all, and there were always people who added 50,000 or 100,000. But when the price broke 1.5 million, Lin Changqing had already given up. At this time, most of the bidders were VIPs in the Class A box, but the auction hall was quiet. Only when the price broke through a certain peak, someone could not help but exclaim. After a fierce competition, the third-level dragon blood fruit was finally sold at a price of 2.2 million low-grade spirit stones. This price almost exceeded the total of all the spirit stones in Lin Changqing's storage bag. Of course, the few small high-grade raw stones that were left in the inner space were not counted. At this time, he felt that he was still poor. The spirit stones on him were only a little more than ordinary cultivators, but still far behind the real big guys. Since the auction of this dragon blood fruit, the items auctioned later have begun to be mixed with a small amount of third-level spiritual objects. And the third-level magic array that Lin Changqing wanted finally appeared. The 420th lot is a third-level magic array made by a fourth-level master array master, the Great 5 Elements Mystery Array. Please see clearly, this is not a condensed and weakened version of the array, but a genuine third-level array. It is composed of 5 third-level main array flags with 5 elements attributes, and 25 second-level top-grade secondary array flags, and also comes with a method of array deployment and control. I won't reveal the rest of the content, anyway. Wanbao Pavilion guarantees that the things are worth the money. The starting price is 500,000 low-grade spirit stones, and each increase in price must not be less than 5,000 spirit stones. Although Jiufeng can set a lot, there are still very few cultivators who need this third-level array. The most likely customer is that a family needs it, so they will buy it. Most of the sect cultivators have their own array masters, so there is not much demand. Therefore, there are not many cultivators participating in the bidding, and each increase in price is 5,000 or 10,000. After a while, the price rose to 800,000. Lin Changqing directly offered 1 million low-grade spirit stones and took it down neatly. In fact, even at this price, Lin Changqing made a small profit. After all, it was a proper third-order formation, not a portable formation disc with half the power. The day before yesterday, Xiao Wu from Wanbao Pavilion also said that the purchase of an ordinary third-order formation disc version would cost about 800,000 low-grade spirit stones. So he made a small profit. Not long after, someone triggered the restriction on the door of the box. Lin Changqing knew that it was someone from Wanbao Pavilion who brought the things he had just bought, and of course, they were here to collect spirit stones. So he opened the door and let the person in. The one who came was Xiao Wu and a maid holding a tray, and the things he bought were on the tray. Everyone was already familiar with each other, so after greeting each other, Lin Changqing directly said, "I want to use the uncut middle-grade spirit stone ore to settle the bill. Please ask your experts to come and take a look." When Xiao Wu heard this, he quickly asked the maid to ask the experts, and soon, the experts came. Lin Changqing didn't waste any words and directly put out the 3 largest middle-grade spirit stone ores. After the experts checked the authenticity, they weighed them respectively, and finally gave an estimate of 850,000 low-grade spirit stones. Lin Changqing agreed without hesitation. The estimate of this expert was a little higher than his own estimate, which was a very fair price. After paying the remaining 150,000 spirit stones, the transaction was completed. He finally got this set of third-level formations, as well as a jade slip, which contained the method of setting up the formation and controlling it. This large 5-element maze formation, Lin Changqing planned to set it in the central area of the inner space to protect that part. Now that the formation is in hand, his mission today is also completed. However, the opportunity was rare, so he did not intend to leave now. In addition, he still had some spiritual stones in his pocket, so he wanted to see if there was anything suitable for him. So he continued to stay in the box. Not long after, he saw 2 more third-level magic arrays, but he did not bid again, just looked at them. Wanbao Pavilion prepared a lot of spiritual objects this time, but the previous second-level spiritual objects had basically been auctioned off. Most of the things that appeared now were third-level spiritual objects. Lin Changqing was in a very strange state now. He did not think much of the second-level spiritual objects. The prices of third-level spiritual objects were not low, and most of the bidders were purple mansion or even golden core cultivators. So he made 2 or 3 bids later, and after being quickly surpassed, he stopped bidding. Knowing that the spiritual stones in his pocket were nothing, he was now more of a mindset to gain knowledge and watch here. This auction lasted from morning till evening, and it was almost in its final stages. The auction of the final treasure was being held on the scene. Jiufeng had persisted from morning to now, and her face was still excited. After a round of inspection of the scene, Kay smiled and said, "Thank you for your support. All the 800 items prepared before have been sold successfully, and none of them failed. Thank you for your support. The next item to be presented is one of the 3 major treasures of this auction. It is also what many Taoists have been waiting for, the 4th-level spiritual object golden fruit." As soon as the voice fell, the whole audience immediately boiled, and many people even stood up, wanting to see the true appearance of this treasure. Although most of the cultivators knew that this thing would never fall into their hands, they still couldn't help but exclaimed, and even looked forward to it. When Lin Changqing heard the 3 words golden fruit, his heart beat violently. Then he stared at the golden fruit on the stage. He regretted very much that he didn't ask Xiao Wu about the information of the finale treasure the day before yesterday. As a result, he didn't make more preparations, which caught him off guard and missed a good opportunity. Chapter 563, Zushin's Secret Realm. Because this thing is the treasure he is looking for and needs. Lin Changqing came to Zuanayan continent to look for opportunities. In fact, he is looking for something similar to this. But today, he is destined to have no chance with this thing, because he will definitely not be able to snatch the remaining spirit stones in his hand from others. Now in this place, he dare not enter the inner space. Therefore, the 3 small pieces of high-quality spirit stone ores in the inner space cannot be taken out. He can only watch now, without any way. However, this thing appeared here, he thought with his heels, and knew that if he did not have the corresponding cultivation and strength, even if he got this thing, he probably couldn't keep it, and there was a high probability that he would lose his life. Lin Changqing calmed down and thought about it, knowing that this might be good news for him. In this way, he finally felt better, and it was a disguised comfort to himself. After everyone's emotions were almost stable at the auction site, Jiufeng continued, "It seems that everyone knows this rare treasure. But according to the client's request, I still have to give you a brief introduction. Everyone knows that this golden fruit is very rare, and it is basically controlled and monopolized by major sects. There are definitely very few that can appear on the market, and ordinary cultivators have no chance to get in touch with it. Unless it is in major dangerous places or some newly discovered secret realms, it is possible to get it. And this rare golden fruit on the market, even if it is swallowed directly, can increase the chance of success of Dan by 30%. But if it can be refined into a 4th level golden elixir, it will definitely double its value. And the golden elixir can not only increase the success rate of Dan by 30%, it can also save the life of the failed cultivator when Dan fails, and will not let the failed cultivator die directly. So this time, fellow Taoists, you must seize the opportunity. The starting price of the golden fruit is a lower grade spirit stone, and each increase in price must not be less than 50,000 spirit stones. Although he knew it was impossible, Lin Changqing still entered 2 million low-grade spirit stones. Unfortunately, the opportunity was not displayed at all. The auction table below directly displayed A003, 5 million low-grade spirit stones. And this bid was soon surpassed by others. The auction of the finale treasure was the real climax of this auction. After fierce competition and continuous bidding, it was finally sold at a price of 8.6 million low-grade spirit stones for A005. Including Lin Changqing, many people couldn't help but stare at the A005 box, wondering who won the finale treasure. But at this time, Jiufeng spoke again, drawing everyone's attention back to the auction table. "Congratulations to the VIP A005, please bring the second finale treasure to the stage." As soon as the voice fell, a high-level monk brought a tray to the auction table. Jiufeng directly picked up a platinum token on it and introduced it. Maybe most of the Taoist friends don't know what this is. Now I will introduce it to you. This is the teleportation token of the Zushan secret realm. Only with this token can you enter the Zushan secret realm to explore. I heard that the Zushan secret realm is vast and boundless. It may be the portable small world of a great man in the upper realm in the past. Although it has been explored dozens of times, it has not been fully explored yet. There are still many opportunities there. Like the 4th level golden fruit tree, or even the 5th level broken golden fruit tree, it is possible to find it. There was a legend in the past that someone found a kind of spiritual crystal that surpassed the best spiritual stone and named it the fairy crystal. It is said that using fairy crystals to practice, the speed of cultivation is more than 10 times that of practicing with the best spiritual stone. But at the same time, there are also many crises inside. According to records, the exploration 400 years ago can be said to have suffered heavy losses, and even almost wiped out the whole army. However, most of the cultivators who came out have obtained a lot of opportunities. Not to mention the formation of Den, some have formed infants. But compared to the number of cultivators who died in it, the risk was still too great. So for the Zushan secret realm that was opened again after 100 years, the client felt unsure, so he took out the transmission token he got and auctioned it. Fellow Taoists, please think carefully before bidding. The starting price is 5 million low-grade spirit stones, and each increase in price must not be less than 100,000 spirit stones. From Jiufeng's introduction, Lin Changqing heard that this Zushan secret realm was not something that low-level cultivators could enter. So he just listened and had no intention of participating. At least he didn't have this plan now, but it's hard to say 100 years later. As soon as Jiufeng finished speaking, a strange calm appeared in the auction hall. After a while, someone made the first bid, 1,002, 5 million low-grade spirit stones. When someone broke this calm, it immediately became different, and a fierce snatch began again. At the beginning, it was still 100,000, 200,000, and finally it even became 500,000, 1 million. The price was so high that it broke everyone's common sense, causing constant exclamations in the auction hall. In the end, it was bought by Jia009 at a price of 12 million low-grade spirit stones. Including Lin Changqing, everyone was refreshed by this price. Yi Fengchen was also shocked by the final price. But seeing that the whole audience was boiling, she quickly spoke to attract everyone's attention to the stage again. Congratulations to the distinguished guest Jia009, please invite the last treasure to the stage. This voice really attracted everyone's attention. As soon as the voice fell, the high-level monk just now sent another tray to the auction table. Yi Fengchen picked up a golden jade slip on the tray and gestured to everyone. Then he said, "This is the heaven-level technique Thunder Sutra, which can be practiced to the highest level of nascent soul great perfection. It is a unique technique that opens up a shortcut. It is not only a technique for practicing lightning attributes, but it is said to have a very good body refining effect. Moreover, it can be practiced together with one's own fundamental technique without interfering with each other. It is a very precious and powerful heaven-level technique. With it, one can even consider founding one's own sect. Moreover, it is said that this technique is inextricably linked to the holy land of thunder in the upper realm. Therefore, fellow Taoists who want to practice another technique concurrently should take a closer look. This is the number one thunder technique for attack and killing, and it is the best means of protecting the Dao. Don't miss it. The starting price of Thunder Sutra is 5 million lower-grade spirit stones, and each bid increase must not be less than 100,000 spirit stones. Chapter 564, Arranging the Grand Formation. I don't know how others will react after hearing this. But Lin Changqing's heart is now in turmoil. He didn't expect that he would encounter such a thing. He didn't expect that he would stay to gain experience, and he would gain experience. He really ate his own melon. He thought that the Thunder Sutra was unique to him in this world. He didn't expect that this technique would be circulated in Zuanayan continent, and there were people who were willing to auction it. But at this time, Lin Changqing still forced himself to calm down quickly and think carefully about Yi Fengchen's introduction just now. He felt that the Thunder Sutra being auctioned now was almost the same as the 5 directions and 5 elements Thunder Sutra he practiced. But the one being auctioned should not be the complete version. There is a great possibility that this is an abridged version. Because the version in his hand can be practiced to the great perfection of the spiritualization. But Yi Fengchen just introduced that the technique being auctioned can only be practiced to the great perfection of the nascent soul, so he concluded that this is an incomplete version. If possible, he really didn't want this Thunder Sutra to be spread out. After all, he regarded this technique as a secret of their lineage. But now that someone has put it up for auction, the auctioneer will definitely keep a backup. So even if he buys it at all costs, it will be useless. Now he can't stop the spread of this technique. Unless Lin Changqing has the ability to find both the buyer and the seller and kill them. After thinking it through, he was no longer in a hurry, because there was no point in being anxious. On the auction table outside, Yi Fengchen's voice fell, and the scene was quiet, and no one bid. Finally, it was the box A005, and the person inside said, "This heaven-level technique sounds good. But there are very few cultivators with thunder spirit roots. I guess there are not many in this auction," Yi Fengchen hurriedly explained. "This Thunder Sutra is a strange technique. The purpose of its creation is to give it to cultivators without thunder spirit roots. So fellow Taoists, there is no need to worry about this, but the specific content involves some secrets in the technique, so I won't say more here." After hearing Yi Fengchen's explanation, everyone was more trustworthy with the golden signboard of one Bao Pavilion here. So some people began to bid one after another, but there was no crazy snatching as imagined. In the end, after the price stopped at 8.8 million, no one raised the price. Yi Fengchen was very disappointed that the sky-high technique was not as popular as expected. But there was no other way, the result was like this, so he could only announce, "Congratulations to the fellow Taoist in box A005 for winning this treasure. All the items in this auction have been sold, and none of them were left unsold. The auction has ended successfully. Thank you again, fellow Taoists, for your support of One Bao Pavilion." After Yi Fengchen finished speaking, the remaining cultivators in the auction hall began to leave in 2s and 3s. Lin Changqing thought about it, got up and left the box, mixed with the crowd leaving at the intersection of the passage, and successfully left One Bao Pavilion. However, he did not return to his residence immediately, but began to wander aimlessly in the market. In fact, Lin Changqing wanted to see if there were other interested people following him. After turning around several times and confirming that there was no tail behind him, and at this time, the sky had completely darkened. So he found a place, had a spiritual meal, and then returned to his residence. After the spiritual sense check was fine and the 2 magic arrays in the room were activated, Lin Changqing completely relaxed. He first brewed a pot of green jade tea for himself, and then began to review what happened today. After reviewing and calculating, there are actually 2 core problems. The first is that he still has too few spirit stones in his hand. When he really encounters something good, he can't compete with others at all, and can only let the treasure slip away in vain. The second is that his own cultivation is still too weak, which is the most fundamental problem. If he relies on himself to practice slowly, it is estimated that it will take at least several decades before he can practice to the great perfection of foundation building. However, if Lin Changqing can advance again, then the mana it will give back to him. Even if it is only a little bit, it should be enough to promote his cultivation to the great perfection of foundation building, and even break through the purple mansion period. So his most important task now is to find resources and pile Lin Changqing to the 4th level first. After clarifying the goal, he already has a general idea in his mind. However, the auction has just ended, and there should be many cultivators leaving here in the next few days, but he doesn't plan to join in the fun. He plans to stay here for a few more days to avoid this time period. He believes that during this period, it will definitely be more chaotic outside. If you were to encounter a high-level cultivator who didn't play by the rules, he would be in trouble, so it would be better for him to stay here for a few days. After making up his mind, he didn't waste time. While the effect of the green jade tea was still there, he took out the jade slip that came with the purchase of the 3rd-level magic array and studied it carefully. In fact, he also had a small 5-element maze array, but it was only a 1st-level array disk, and it couldn't be compared with his 3rd-level large array. Although the names are similar, the complexity inside is many times different. The jade slip only contains the method of array arrangement and control, but does not involve any other principles, so it is relatively simple and easy to use. It took him about an hour to basically learn the method of array arrangement, and then Lin Changqing couldn't help but want to try it. So he went directly into the inner space, and then summoned Su Miniang, Zhao Liu, and the 2 sisters of the Li family. He began to direct them to help set up the formation base. After working together for about 2 hours, they finally set up the 3rd-order 5-element maze formation. After activating the formation, he shrank it within the range he had set. In this way, the middle area of the inner space was completely covered, which also strengthened his control over the inner space. After the formation was completed, he immediately tried the effect and put the 3 people from the Liu family, as well as Su Miniang and Zhao Liu, into the 3rd-order formation. The effect was very good. The 5 of them were in the formation, no matter what means they used. They just couldn't break through the interference of the formation. They were always within the range controlled by Lin Changqing, circling around, but couldn't get out. Chapter 565, Preparing to do bad things. And not long after they entered, they were controlled and separated by Lin Changqing. In this way, if more enemies enter the formation in the future, this method can also be used to weaken the opponent's strength. This made Lin Changqing very satisfied. After getting them all out, he sent the 3 Liu family members back. Then he taught Su Miniang and Zhao Liu the initial method of controlling the formation, and they will be mainly responsible for managing the central area in the future. Because there is no spiritual vein in the inner space now. Therefore, the operation of this 3rd-level formation uses 500 medium-grade spiritual stones, which can last for about a month. However, if the formation is always in a semi-activated state, the maintenance time can be extended to about 3 months. Of course, it can also be replaced with high-grade spiritual stones. Needless to say, the power of the formation will definitely be greater, and the maintenance time will definitely be longer. However, Lin Changqing was reluctant to waste it, so the formation still used medium-grade spiritual stones to maintain operation. After everything was done, he summoned all the 3 colored deer and fed them with yuling pills and zu fruits. After playing with them for a while, he exited the inner space. 7 days passed like this. During these days, Lin Changqing lived a very relaxed and comfortable life. Usually, after completing his practice in the morning, he would go to the market to stroll around, or find a tea house to drink tea, and listen to the news circulating in the market. However, a few days ago, He did hear a lot of rumors, all of which were about who was missing and who was killed. There were even more than a dozen cultivators who acted together and then disappeared without a trace. In short, this kind of news continued for several days. It proved that his original judgment was very accurate. During that period, the outside world was indeed very chaotic. However, since yesterday, it has calmed down. He knew that most of the cultivators should have left. Those robbery cultivators wanted to make plans, but they couldn't. So he decided to leave Wonpin Market tomorrow. But before leaving, he needed to do one more thing, that is, to buy a few second-level puppets. Although he knew that contacting the disciples of the puppet sect might give him a better price, Lin Changqing had no connections and was worried about being cheated by the disciples of the puppet sect. Therefore, he finally chose to go to Wanbao Pavilion, where he bought 6 ordinary second-stage late-stage puppets, which cost him a total of 1.2 million low-grade spirit stones. As a result, all the spirit stones he had were only about 200,000. However, he was not too worried. Although he could not get a huge amount of spirit stones, he was still sure to get spirit stones of hundreds of thousands or millions. The next morning, Lin Changqing recovered 2 second-stage array plates and settled the bill with the landlord. Then he left Wonpin Market. The next stop, he was going to do something bad. The reason why Wanfang Domain is called Wanfang Domain is because there are many mountain spirit peaks in this area. With many mountain spirit peaks, there are naturally many minerals, but they are distributed in different locations in Wanfang Domain. In the past few days, Lin Changqing did not just stroll around and drink tea. He also roughly studied the output of various mineral resources in this area. He found 3 spirit stone mines that were being mined, although these spirit stone mines were occupied by major sects, and all of them were covered and protected by large arrays. But those places are not impossible to get close to, because the major sects can't let all their disciples go to mine. So the major sects also need to recruit some independent cultivators to help them mine, and this is Lin Changqing's opportunity. But he didn't plan to go into the mine to control the mine himself. His idea was to find an opportunity to let Lin Changqing sneak in. See if he can find the part that has not been excavated, and let Lin Changqing go to sweep it first. Anyway, he didn't plan to stay too long. He was going to take a handful of money from each spiritual stone mining area and leave. The main point was not to be greedy. Of course, he was also afraid that if he went too far, he would attract high-level cultivators, and then it would be troublesome. So he definitely didn't dare to do it too outrageous. At this time, it is the right way to keep a low profile and develop secretly. Now he is just heading towards the first spiritual stone mine. The location of this spiritual stone mine is in a place called Shinying Peak. So this spiritual stone mine is also called Shinying Mine, and the one occupying the Shinying Mine is the puppet sect. Although Lin Changqing did receive some favor from the 9 Shadows True Lord this time, it had nothing to do with the puppet sect, so Lin Changqing chose to do bad things here without any psychological burden. Anyway, the resources in the world of cultivation belong to the winners. Whoever has the ability to get them will own them. He has already studied it. Starting from Wanpingfang City, at his speed, it will take about 20 days to reach the Sky Eagle Mine. Just like before, Chui and Chua provided him with early warnings above his head, while he was riding on the auspicious clouds. Unfortunately, the journey was not peaceful. After flying for more than 2 hours, he received early warnings from Chui and others. It was said that there might be an ambush about 10 miles ahead. Lin Changqing didn't want to cause trouble, so he adjusted the direction slightly to avoid it. Unexpectedly, after flying for 7 or 8 miles, the scene suddenly changed, and he reacted instantly. He must have broken into the magic circle set up by others, so he didn't hesitate at all. He immediately activated the Moandao under him to the extreme, and a thick black cloud spread very quickly in the magic circle. It took only a very short time to fill the entire magic circle. However, even so, there were still 5 or 6 spiritual weapon flying swords attacking Lin Changqing. Fortunately, he was no longer in the position just now. Although he avoided the flying swords, he was still in someone else's formation after all, so he could not avoid the magic attacks in the formation. But now he was basically sure that he had definitely fallen into a second-level killing formation. And there were at least 2 or more foundation-building monks hidden in this killing formation. If it were other monks of the same level, they would definitely be doomed to encounter this situation. It was a pity that they encountered Lin Changqing, who had a lot of defensive spiritual weapons on him. All attacks of this level were like tickling him. and they could not threaten him at all. And Lin Changqing had already found a way to deal with them. Who told them to be ignorant of life and death and actually ran into the formation. Being in the same space with him and so close to him, of course the second-order shocking god cicada would be the most effective. Chapter 566 Unexpected Disaster. So he thought, and all the second-level shocking cicadas flew out of the spirit beast bracelet. For a moment, the whole killing array was immediately filled with a sound of cicadas. For unknown enemies, Lin Changqing dared not be careless. So he ordered the shocking cicadas to go all out. So soon there was no other movement in the whole killing array except for the sound of the shocking cicadas. Dozens of superimposed attacks of the second-level shocking magic, and they were fixed in a range. This is not something that ordinary foundation-building cultivators can bear. Lin Changqing estimated that the several cultivators who ambushed him this time should have died. And the entire second-level killing array, without anyone controlling it, was completely quiet, and there was no reaction. All the black clouds quickly gathered in one direction, and then all entered the Moandao, and there was no black cloud that affected vision. Lin Changqing immediately saw clearly that he was in a magic array covering an area of about 1 mile. However, he did not see any corpses of cultivators. After a little thought, he understood what was going on. It should still be in this magic circle, but now the magic circle is still running, so it is not visible. Lin Changqing looked at the magic circle that trapped him. Although he was not a magician, he knew that a magic circle needed the support of spiritual veins or spiritual stones to operate normally. There must be no spiritual veins in this place, so he could only use spiritual stones, so his method was to attack the edge of the magic circle. Consume all the spiritual stones on the array disk, and the magic circle will naturally become invalid. Forceful attack is naturally not suitable for Jingshan cicada. After taking them back to the spirit beast bracelet, all the second-level purple crystal scorpions were released. After only 3 rounds of purple light rays from them, all the spiritual stones on the array disk were consumed, and the magic circle naturally disappeared. Lin Changqing immediately saw 3 corpses and 5 or 6 spiritual weapon flying swords that fell on the ground. After letting the purple crystal scorpion make up for it, he went to collect all the spoils, and the corpses were cleaned up with fireball. However, Lin Changqing had no way to deal with this second-level killing array, although he knew it must be arranged in this place. Because he didn't want to stay here for too long. It was a waste of time to search for the array plate and array flag here. So he simply gave up. In fact, the power of this second-level killing array is definitely not small. However, the luck of several robbery cultivators was too bad. They met Lin Changqing, and his experience in fighting was too rich, and his reaction speed was also very fast. They didn't have the opportunity to show the true power of the second-level killing array. After checking again and erasing all the traces left by himself, Lin Changqing set off again. It seems that after waiting for 7 or 8 days, there are still many robbery cultivators outside who are doing business without capital. Such people are really everywhere. However, he had just spent almost all the spirit stones in Wanpanfang market, and now someone delivered it to him. It's really good. So he started to sacrifice and refine the storage bag on the auspicious cloud. This time, he found 15 storage bags. It is estimated that there are a lot of them. They are the harvests of these 3 robbery cultivators in the past few days, and now they all belong to Lin Changqing. It took him a lot of time to sacrifice all 15 storage bags, but now they are finally done. He got a lot of ordinary elixirs, spiritual tools, sundries, etc. I won't go into details. The most important thing is that he got about 300,000 spiritual stones. This made his waste bag, which had just shrunk, swell up a little, which made Lin Changqing very happy. In fact, in these storage bags, he also found 2 intact first-stage late-stage puppets, and a damaged second-stage puppet, which was covered with scars and it was not known whether it could be repaired. He put all these things away. In this way, he traveled for another 10 days. During these 10 days, he encountered 3 groups of robbers, which doubled his wealth again. And he got 5 first-stage puppets again, but he never met second-stage puppets again. On this day, Lin Changqing was on the road, and suddenly a strong and suffocating breath enveloped him and the surroundings. Lin Changqing's hair stood up all of a sudden. He knew that he must have met a high-level cultivator. Otherwise, Chuai and Shure would definitely give him a warning, but now even Chuai and them didn't react. That must be more than the Purple Mansion stage, because if it is a Purple Mansion cultivation, The first and second year cultivators still have some time to react. Now the only possibility is that the people who come are at least giant in cultivation, so they can arrive so fast that the first and second year cultivators can't react. Lin Changqing didn't dare to be arrogant anymore, and hurriedly stood up, and then immediately shouted respectfully to the people around him, "Junior King Insect, Cakeshas Henren sits down as a disciple, and greets the senior." There was no way. The person who came was too powerful, and shamelessly bullied the weak, so he quickly pulled out his great-grandmother to block it. Now it's time to admit it, and it's time to pull the tiger skin, otherwise, if you are killed by others in an instant, there will be no place to complain. A slightly frivolous voice sounded in Lin Changqing's ears. "Oh. It turns out that you are still a sect disciple, but you are all the same in front of me." After that, a middle-aged figure suddenly appeared in front of Lin Changqing, and then waved his hand to seal Lin Changqing's danshan. Then he was brought to a treasure ship. When he landed on the deck, he saw that there were at least 45 foundation-building cultivators around him. However, all of them were sitting cross-legged on the deck. It was obvious that they were captured like him. At this time, the middle-aged cultivator looked at the Moan Dao in his hand, and then threw it back to Lin Changqing. Then he ignored him. This action made Lin Changqing feel moved, knowing that he should not be in any danger in the short term. Thinking of Chua Ianchur still outside, he quickly said, "Senior, I still have 2 spirit pets outside." The middle-aged cultivator glanced at him and said lightly, "You are the one who is too troublesome. Hurry up and let those 2 flat-haired beasts come over." Lin Changqing was furious when he heard this. He had always regarded Chua Yi as his family, and this old bastard dared to say that to him. Lin Changqing remembered this account in his heart. When he had the chance in the future, he must extract his golden elixir and feed it to Chua Yi to relieve his hatred. But at this time, he didn't dare to show it on his face, so he could only respond, and then summon Chua Ianchur through the contract. The middle-aged monk opened a hole in the protective shield of the treasure ship, letting Chua Ianchur fly in, and then ignored Lin Changqing. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 567, A Different Opportunity. At this time, Chua Ianchur sandwiched Lin Changqing in the middle, protecting him on the left and right. There were at least a dozen or 20 people on the deck, watching him. Lin Changqing found a cultivator he liked and sat cross-legged beside her. Then he spoke in a low voice, "Excuse me, fellow Taoist, I am Zhang Dejin. What is your name? Also, do you know what's going on? Why did this senior want to capture us?" The unbelievably beautiful female cultivator just glanced at him indifferently, but still said, "I am Song Jung-soo. I also don't know what's going on, but I was captured by that senior an hour ago. And, didn't you guess it? This senior must have something for us to do, otherwise you wouldn't have summoned the 2 spirit pets in. In addition, he didn't move anything on us, which further proves this guess." Lin Changqing listened and nodded. This Song Jung-soo was really smart to the extreme. Just based on one of his actions, she deduced his thoughts. It was really smart. In fact, when the old bastard brought him up just now, he had already fully reacted. Because the innate merit eye did not jump, it proved that he was not in great danger at that time. In addition, based on the behavior and attitude of the old bastard, he also had a rough guess in his mind, so he did not act rashly. "Thank you for telling me, fellow Taoist Song. No matter what this senior asked us to do, I don't think it will be simple. So fellow Taoist should be more careful," Song Jung-soo just said lightly, and then there was no follow-up. Seeing her reaction so cold, Lin Changqing stopped talking, but just reached out and stroked Chua Ianchur to comfort them. The treasure ship they were on had never stopped, and Lin Changqing could feel that it was flying at high speed. Suddenly, the middle-aged monk disappeared. After a while, he came back with 3 foundation-building monks, threw them all on the deck, and then ignored them. Just like that, flying all the time, I don't know how far I flew. 10 days later, there were no less than 500 foundation-building monks on the deck. On this day, the treasure ship finally landed in a valley, and then the middle-aged monk drove everyone off the ship. After putting away the treasure ship, he said to everyone, "I am Yang Hongjing, the outer sect elder of Shenmu sect. Along the way, you should have guessed that, yes, I have something for you to do. In fact, you can be said to be unfortunate, or very lucky. Because as long as you can help me enter the secret realm and bring out what I want, I will not only give him a generous reward, but also let him join Shenmu sect and become an outer sect disciple of Shenmu sect. Shenmu sect is one of the most powerful sects on our continent, and there are 4 true gods in the sect. When Lin Changqing heard this, he knew that this old man had made such a big promise, and the matter must be not simple. So he simply kept silent and let others explore the way for him first. Sure enough, most of the monks were excited when they heard that they could join Shenmu sect, and completely forgot that they were forcibly captured. One of the cultivators couldn't help but ask, "Senior Yang, can you tell me in more detail where we are going and what we can get for you?" Hearing this question, Yang Zhongjing nodded, feeling very satisfied. So he said, "You are going to a secret realm that is on the verge of collapse. What I want is a 4th level spiritual object." The wood tooth crystal, another cultivator also asked, "Since Senior Yang has such a high level of cultivation, why don't you go in and search for it yourself? Wouldn't the chance of success be higher that way?" Yang Zhongjing rolled his eyes at him, and then said, "Didn't you understand? That secret realm is on the verge of collapse, and there is no way to accommodate cultivators above the 3rd level. Otherwise, why would I specifically look for you?" The cultivator didn't dare to speak anymore after hearing what Yang Zhongjing said. But at this time, Song Jungsa suddenly said, "Then Senior Yang, if we successfully bring the things out, what rewards will we get? How can you guarantee that we can really get the rewards and join the Shenmu sect after risking our lives to bring out the wood tooth crystal?" Yang Zhongjing finally heard someone asking the right question, and couldn't help but nodded to her with relief. Then he said, "Finally, there is someone with a brain. You asked a very good question. I can swear on my own path that as long as someone helps me bring the wood tooth crystal out, I will give him a purple mansion Twanksun pill, 100 top-grade spirit stones, and a place for the outer sect disciple of the Shenmu sect. This place can be used by yourself or given to your relatives and friends, but don't expect me to take special care of him. You can understand this as a transaction. I am only responsible for getting you into the outer sect of the Shenmu sect. The transaction is completed. We no longer owe each other anything. How we will develop in the future depends on your own efforts." After speaking, Yang Zhongjing really took out a jade card of the Shenmu sect. Then, in front of everyone, he swore a big oath, including everything he said in the oath. In this way, most of the cultivators present believed what he said, including Lin Changqing, and believed that he would not deny it. He even had a different idea. To be honest, the Lin family and the Qingyuan sect were still too small for Lin Changqing. On the contrary, the pool of Shenmu sect was big enough for him to do whatever he wanted, at least if he was wearing the cloak of a disciple of Shenmu sect. Then, when doing things outside in the future, he would have fewer concerns and it would definitely be much smoother. So now, he is focusing on this issue, whether to go in and take the risk. However, he is still weighing it carefully, but other cultivators are already excited and can't wait to enter the secret realm right now. Fortunately, there were still some people who were more rational. So they asked, "Then Senior Yang, what does the wood tooth crystal you mentioned look like? At least let us all know it. And how is it calculated? Can each wood tooth crystal be exchanged for a reward and a quota?" Yang Zhongjing heard it and directly used his magic power to draw a pattern of a wood tooth crystal in the void. Let everyone see it, and everyone quickly memorized it firmly in their hearts. Chapter 568, The Dead Secret Realm. After confirming that everyone remembered the appearance of the wood tooth crystal, Yang Zhongjing took back his mana. Then he continued to say, "The number of plant-type spiritual objects can actually be traced. Generally, the second-level spiritual plants will produce up to 24 fruits, and the third-level ones will produce 12. The fourth-level spiritual plants, at most, will produce 6 fruits. Do you understand now? So for each wood tooth crystal, I will give a reward and a place to enter the outer gate. If someone can bring all 6 wood tooth crystals to me, then I will give him 6 rewards and 6 places to enter." It's that simple. In Lin Changqing's view, this is not simple at all. He believes that Yang Zhongjing has given such a generous reward, so this trip to the secret realm will definitely not be so simple. But he will not meddle in other people's business and foolishly remind others. Besides, others will not listen to him, but he is not the only smart person. Song Jungsa asked again at this time, "Then Senior Yang, how long can we stay in the secret realm after entering, and how are we going to get out?" After hearing her question, Yang Zhongjing did not answer immediately. Instead, He glanced at everyone present before saying, "This secret realm is on the verge of collapse. So I don't know how long you can stay after you go in. But with the current situation of this secret realm, it should not be able to exclude you again. So after you go in, if you want to get out, you must find a way by yourself, or wait until the secret realm collapses and seize the opportunity to rush out. Therefore, the danger of this mission is very high, and it can even be said to be a life and death situation. This is why I am willing to give such a high reward." As soon as these words came out, they poured cold water on everyone, and some people even showed a look of fear. After Ouyang Zhongjing glanced at them, he continued, "Of course, when I found you, you had no way out. That's why I just said you were unlucky. Now either go in and help me get the wood tooth crystal out, or die here immediately. There are only these two ways." Lin Changqing's heart tightened when he heard it, but then he was relieved. After entering this secret realm, everyone is in danger of death, but his chance is greater than others, because he still has Lin Changliu. But Lin Changqing estimated that he only had one chance. According to Ouyang Zhongjing, this secret realm that was on the verge of collapse should also not be able to withstand the third level Lin Changliu. So if it is not absolutely necessary, he cannot let Lin Changliu appear in the secret realm. But at this time, Lin Changqing also reacted. Knowing why Ouyang Zhongjing, this old bastard, did not let the disciples of the Shenmu sect to carry out this task. This mission is really a life or death mission. What is said about rushing out at the right time? How many people can grasp this ray of hope? It is estimated that there are very few. The atmosphere at the scene was dull and tense, and everyone remained silent. However, Lin Changqing asked, "Then Senior Ouyang, can you provide us with a map of the secret realm?" Ouyang Zhongjing glanced at him, shook his head and said, "The existence of this secret realm is also deduced by me through some clues in ancient books. I only know that this secret realm has been abandoned a long time ago, and I don't have a map inside." Hearing this answer, Lin Changqing didn't feel too surprised. But at this time, everyone can only go forward and can't retreat. So Lin Changqing was the first to speak. "Senior Ouyang, the junior is willing to enter the secret realm and look for the wood tooth crystal." But before he said this, he had communicated with Lin Changliu and asked it to quietly leave a space mark nearby. Hearing Lin Changqing's first statement, Song Jiangsu followed closely and expressed his willingness to enter the secret realm. Then, there was a series of voices expressing their willingness. All 500 people expressed their willingness to enter the secret realm to find the wood tooth crystal. They are all foundation building cultivators with certain experience, and no one is a fool. If you don't go in at this time, you will definitely die. Go in and take a chance, maybe there will be a glimmer of hope. The current situation is also within Ouyang Zhongjing's expectations. He is quite satisfied with everyone's understanding. So he nodded and said, "Don't worry. As long as someone can help me bring the wood tooth crystal out, I will definitely fulfill my promise. Now, everyone follow me." After saying that, he waved his hand and unlocked the restrictions on everyone. He led everyone to the center of the valley, and then cast a spell in the air. In the center of the valley, a magic circle covering a large area immediately appeared. Then Ouyang Zhongjing said to everyone, "Wait a minute, after I activate the magic circle, it will tear open a hole and lead directly to that secret realm. All of you must hurry up and rush in. If there are still people who haven't entered in the end, you can think about the consequences yourself." After saying that, he ignored the reactions of the crowd and began to cast spells on the big formation, and the big formation soon responded. The magic power gathered in the middle of the formation, and then a black dot slowly appeared, from small to large, and finally formed a 10-foot size, constantly rotating channel. And through this channel, you can also see the scene of yellow sand all over the sky. At this time, Ouyang Zhongjing shouted loudly, "If you don't go in now, when will you go in?" Lin Changqing didn't hesitate and rushed in at the first time, followed by Song Jiangsu, and then the people behind him rushed in. They were afraid that they would not be able to get in at the end, and Ouyang Zhongjing would definitely not keep them. After a short dizziness, Lin Changqing returned to normal. He had experience in this situation and knew that the dizziness must have been caused by random transmission. He didn't dare to be careless. He immediately opened his spiritual consciousness and found that there was no danger within a few hundred feet, but he didn't dare to take chances. He immediately put on several layers of defense for himself, and then flipped his hand, and the thunder horn appeared in his hand, and began to inject thunder magic power to prepare the Zhengjing divine thunder. After doing this, he was in the mood to carefully look at the surrounding environment. The first feeling he had here was that it was very desolate, with no vegetation at all, and it was just like the Gobi Desert. The second feeling was that the spiritual energy in this secret space was really very thin, and it was estimated that it was not even 1/3 of the outside world. The third feeling was that there was no vitality here, but instead gave people a sense of deadness. Seeing this situation, it was no wonder that this secret space was abandoned by the predecessors. Chapter 569 Invisible Space Crack. Lin Changqing didn't know where he was now, but he didn't dare to waste too much time here. First, he released Chui and Chur from the Spirit Beast bracelet. Then he also flew to a height of 300 or 400 feet on his sword. After looking around, he saw a vague mountain range in the distance. After communicating with Chui and the others, he decided to go to that direction first, so he changed into Moen Dao and started flying there. However, after flying for a while, Chur suddenly let out a sharp cry, then hit Zuiner and fell to the ground. This scared him a lot, but fortunately Chui's reaction speed was also very fast. He swooped over and finally caught Chur before he fell to the ground. Lin Changqing immediately opened his spiritual sense and released all the second-level purple crystal scorpions and the shocking cicada. Let them form a double defense circle around him, Chui and Chur. Protect them. He thought that there must be enemies around, otherwise, Chur would not be injured suddenly. However, after being alert for a while, there was no movement around. Lin Changqing was worried about Chur's condition and went to check immediately. After checking its whole body, it was found that only the left wing was cut off by something, about 1/5. No wonder Chur suddenly lost control and fell from the sky. And the wound on Chur's wing was still very flat, but it was bleeding all the time. Lin Changqing quickly fed it healing medicine and helped it treat the wound. Then he began to communicate with Chur, asking it if it saw what hurt it. However, Chur responded that it didn't know what was going on. It was suddenly injured without any sound, and there was no sign at all. Hearing this answer, Lin Changqing's heart kept sinking. This kind of intangible and invisible thing, the attack is so silent, it is the most terrifying. The problem is that he himself did not feel any spiritual fluctuations, which is the most fatal. However, he still put Chui and Chur into the Spirit Beast bracelet first. In this situation, there is no point in leaving them outside. And Chur was injured, so let them go in and rest first. But at this time, there was still no movement around. Lin Changqing couldn't help but admire it. This thing's patience was too good. You know, he has been fully aware of it, covering a few hundred feet around him. Once there is any movement, he will definitely know it. After a while, there was still no movement. Lin Changqing noticed that part of Chur's wings was cut off. With a thought, he asked a few second-level purple crystal scorpions to go over and get it. When Lin Changqing got it, he carefully sensed it on the broken end, and he actually sensed that there was a little difference. That is, he actually sensed a trace of extremely weak space power on that section of the wing. If he hadn't often passed through Lin Changqing and shuttled back and forth between the two spaces, he wouldn't be so sensitive to space power. Combined with the current situation that this space is about to collapse, Lin Changqing boldly guessed that Chur might have had a free space crack. If this is really the case, then it will be troublesome. The degree of danger of this secret space has increased by more than 10 times in an instant. Even if Lin Changqing himself encountered a space crack, he would be split in two. He couldn't resist the power of space cutting at all. Even if his current body had the cultivation of the second-level body refining late stage. At this time, he missed Lin Changqing very much. It would be great if he could summon it in. Lin Changqing was born as a special creature with space attributes. It was not afraid of space cracks, but unfortunately Lin Changqing didn't dare. He was afraid that by then, the entire secret space would collapse before the mission was completed. He also wanted to get a place to enter the outer gate of Shenmue sect. Now the secret space cannot collapse, at least until he gets the wood tooth crystal. But if it is a space crack, then this thing may appear at any time and anywhere. He himself seems to have nothing that can effectively resist it. Suddenly, he thought of getting a big void teleportation order before. But he didn't know if the big void teleportation order would work in this situation, but Lin Changqing still took out the teleportation order and activated it. Since Lin Changqing clicked on the teleportation order last time, Lin Changqing knew how to use it. A transparent light shield with a radius of about 10 feet, perfectly enveloped Lin Changqing. However, this thing is a high-level treasure, and he has no ability to maintain the operation of the teleportation order for a long time. This thing can only be used at a critical moment, so he waited a little and stopped the operation of the teleportation order. Then all the second-level purple crystal scorpion and second-level shocking cicadas were recalled to the spirit beast bracelet. Only 33 first-level shocking gods were left outside, and then 12 were arranged to form a shield, 3 feet away from Lin Changqing, to explore the way for him in front. The remaining 21 fell behind him. There was no better way, so he could only use the native method. It is impossible for him, the master, to lie in front of the thunder. Of course, this kind of thing is arranged, and the lowest valued first-level shocking cicada is used. Anyway, there are still hundreds of them in the inner space. If they die, then some will be replenished at that time. Sure enough, after flying forward for more than 10 miles, 2 of the god-shocking cicadas that were exploring the way ahead were suddenly split into 2 silently. Lin Changqing immediately felt that his soul seemed to be pierced by a needle twice, and he felt very uncomfortable and inexplicably a little uncomfortable in his heart. He knew that this was because the 2 god-shocking cicadas he had contracted with had died. At this time, he immediately stopped and dared not move forward. Then he took a seized spiritual weapon flying sword and explored that place. The next moment, the spiritual weapon flying sword broke into 2 pieces. After trying a few more times, he confirmed the size and range of the space crack. Originally, he could leave and continue on his way. But Lin Changqing waited in his mind and still wanted to try the Great Void Teleport Order to see if it could fight against the space crack. So after activating the teleport order, he carefully controlled the transparent light shield and approached the space crack. The result made Lin Changqing very satisfied. The transparent light shield did not break. But just in case, he got another spiritual flying sword and probed into that place. Sure enough, nothing happened and the spiritual flying sword was intact this time. Chapter 570, Mobile Forbidden Zone Black Crystal Marching Ants. In this way, he had a clear idea in his mind. After stopping the operation of the teleportation order, he used the spirit weapon flying sword to explore that place again, but this time it broke into 2 pieces again. In this way, he could confirm 100% that the Great Void Teleportation Order could restrain the space crack. At least it could fix the space crack and prevent it from causing harm to the people in the light shield, which made him very happy. With this thing, his safety in the secret realm was truly guaranteed. However, he knew that time was precious and did not dare to delay here for too long, so he took back the bodies of the 2 shocking cicadas and the spirit weapon fragments on the ground. He also added 2 shocking cicadas to the shield phalanx that was exploring the way in front, and then he continued to set off. After flying forward for about 20 miles, he finally arrived at the foot of the mountain. This place also looked bare, with only very few scattered vegetation. However, at this time, Lin Changqing saw 2 foundation-building monks flying slowly over a few hundred feet away, but one of them was injured. Now that they've just come in, they certainly won't gain anything, so Lin Changqing, you don't bother to pay attention to them. Prepare to continue flying into the mountain, but just because he doesn't want to cause trouble doesn't mean others will let him go. The 2 people on the other side saw that he was alone, looked at each other, and immediately accelerated to surround him. Seeing this situation, Lin Changqing simply didn't leave. Prepare to see what they want to do, but unexpectedly, the 2 of them were straightforward and didn't say a word. Then each of them manipulated 2 spiritual weapon flying swords, distanced themselves from each other, and attacked Lin Changqing. In this case, it is already very obvious what they want to do. Lin Changqing certainly won't indulge them. With a thud, 24 purple lights flew out of the spirit beast bracelet. Then they automatically split into 2 groups and flew towards the 2 monks. When the 2 saw so many things flying towards them, they immediately activated a defensive spiritual weapon, began to move at a high speed, and turned the flying sword. They wanted to intercept the purple crystal scorpion, but unfortunately they didn't know anything about it, let alone how scary these little guys were. After a short while, both of them screamed, and then fell from midair. Lin Changqing asked the purple crystal scorpion to finish off the attack, confirming that it was dead, and then went over to collect all the things on them. He also focused on checking the monk who was injured at the beginning. Sure enough, after careful sensing, the wound on his body was very smooth, and a faint special force was also sensed on it. This once again proved that there were many special cracks in this secret realm. It is estimated that many of the 500 monks who came in should be hit, and how many people can get out alive in the end is an unknown. Moreover, Lin Changqing only reacted now. He had been in for 1 or 2 hours, but he didn't see any monsters. This is an extremely abnormal situation. In his cognition, no matter how bad the environment is, there should be some monsters that can survive. Now that no demon beasts have been seen, it proves that there may be something in this secret realm that he doesn't know about. So Lin Changqing became alert again. He didn't want to leave his life here. He used the fireball technique to clean up the 2 corpses and the traces on the ground, and then he continued on his way. Because there was a space crack, he could only accommodate the speed of the first level shocking cicada, so Lin Changqing's speed was not fast. In this way, several hours passed, and he didn't find any clues related to the wood tooth crystal. However, he met 3 or 4 groups of monks, some alone, and some in groups of 2 or 3. Fortunately, they didn't want to take action, so everyone was safe for the time being. At this time, the sky had completely darkened, and Lin Changqing didn't continue to search, but found a more secluded place to camp. Worried about danger at night, he also specially arranged 2 second-level magic arrays, one for spiritual absorption and one for defense, and there was also a purple crystal scorpion for invisible protection on the periphery. Facing a strange and dangerous environment, no matter how cautious you are, it is not excessive. After all, there are many monks around, and there are unknown dangers that he has been worried about. From today, he has encountered 5 or 6 groups of monks, and he can infer that this secret space should not be very large. It may be only a few hundred miles in radius, and at most it will not exceed 1,000 miles in radius, otherwise there will not be so many monks. However, it is really not an easy task to find the wood tooth crystal hidden in that corner within this 1,000 miles. And all day today, Lin Changqing was also terrified. Although there was a god-shaking cicada in front to help explore the way, he was still afraid that a space crack would suddenly appear beside him and cut him in half. So he planned to rest well tonight after completing the practice of the Thunder Sutra. Unfortunately, the sky is not what people want, and he can't rest when he wants to rest. Shortly after midnight, Lin Changqing received feedback from the purple crystal scorpion, which meant that there were many monsters approaching in the northwest. This scared Lin Changqing, although the second-level purple crystal scorpion could not express too clear meaning when communicating with him. But since they passed on the message that there were a lot of monsters, there would definitely be no mistake. Lin Changqing immediately probed with his spiritual sense, and the scene he imagined did not appear. There was not a single monster outside. But there was something more terrifying than the monster. There was a layer of black torrent on the ground that covered a very large area and was advancing. Lin Changqing scanned it with his spiritual sense and found that the torrent was actually black ants the size of 2 fingers. The number was simply incalculable, and Lin Changqing's hair stood up. However, he still summoned all the purple crystal scorpions outside and sent them back to the spirit beast bracelet. There were too many of these ants, and no matter how powerful the purple crystal scorpions were, they could not deal with them. And Lin Changqing had already recognized what these black ants were. These were the mobile restricted areas of the world of cultivation, and they were also very famous scourges. The famous black crystal marching ants, they are creatures of dark attributes, but as long as there is spiritual energy, they can eat it. Moreover, they have sharp teeth and can chew anything that is 1 or 2 grades higher than themselves. In addition, there are so many of them that their chewing speed is quite amazing. It can be said that wherever the army ants pass, there is really no grass left, and they may even chew away a layer of the ground. Chapter 571 Blue-Eyed Golden Rhino. Now he finally understood why this secret realm had become like this. It must have been caused by these black crystal army ants. But at this time, he could no longer care about so much, because the black crystal army ants were about to pass by his camp. He immediately recovered both array plates at the fastest speed, and then covered his whole body with a magic gauze. Then he used the ink cloud to support himself and slowly flew up. Now he didn't dare to make too much noise, lest he attract the attention of the black crystal army ants, because what he saw now was only the first-order army ants. There must be second-order army ants, which can fly. If there are enough of them, Lin Changqing dare not say that he will definitely be able to escape. Moreover, there are invisible and intangible space cracks in this secret space. It's not that he can fly however he wants. If he flies around, his body might suddenly split into 2. So now he only dares to slowly rise to a height of 30 or 40 feet, and then he doesn't move, and doesn't dare to mess around. Sensing the black torrent passing by his feet, it really made his scalp numb. It was both spectacular and terrifying. There were too many of them. Even if he could eliminate some of them, they would definitely lead to second-level or even third-level army ants in the end. Lin Changqing didn't believe that the secret realm that could grow wood-tooth crystals would lack resources to cultivate third-level army ants. So he simply didn't bother them. Fortunately, the black crystal army ants were dark-attributed creatures. They basically hid in dark caves during the day. They would leave the caves to eat at night. With this characteristic, the hundreds of monks who came in had a glimmer of hope. And now Lin Changqing no longer had any hope of finding the wood-tooth crystals. It is estimated that the entire secret space is already the territory of the black crystal army ants. How could a high-level spiritual object like the wood-tooth crystal be let go? I think there must be no more. Maybe even the spiritual plants that produce wood-tooth crystals have been eaten up by the army ants. Lin Changqing could never have imagined that this would be the case in the secret space. This time, his plan would fail. At this moment, he vaguely heard screams from afar. Someone must have been hit. Soon, he saw several different colored escape lights flying around. At this time, the black crystal army ants below also rioted. The speed of advancement increased by more than 2 or 3 times. Lin Changqing could only silently mourn for those people. I don't know how many people can survive tonight. I think there shouldn't be too many. After waiting for the ant tide to pass, Lin Changqing began to fly slowly in the opposite direction. He had to find a safe place to stay first, and then make plans after dawn. But after thinking about it, he couldn't find a suitable place. Lin Changqing could only fly a few miles and find a towering rock, and then stay on it. He didn't dare to take off the magic veil on his body. After persisting for a few hours, the sky finally dawned, and all the black crystal army ants returned to the cave. The problem facing Lin Changqing now is to leave this secret realm. But the way for him to leave is to communicate with Lin Changqiu. Let him enter the inner space, and then return to the normal world of cultivation through the coordinates left before. But to do this, Lin Changqiu must contact the space barrier of this secret realm. And on the space barrier, open a passage for Lin Changqing to enter the inner space. In that case, it is possible to destroy the fragile balance of this secret space and become the last straw that crushes the entire space. So Lin Changqing is hesitating whether to do it immediately. But after thinking about it, he decided to delay for a day or two to see if there are any other variables. After making up his mind, he released those first-level shocking cicadas again, formed a Pathfinder shield, and continued to explore the interior of the mountain. He had a feeling that if he could really find something, it must be in the mountain, not on the next beach. So he continued to walk into the mountain. Today, he could clearly feel that there were fewer cultivators than yesterday. He flew for 2 or 3 hours, encountered space cracks 3 times, and lost 4 first-level shocking cicadas. Finally, he saw 2 monks, and they were in the same group. However, when both sides saw each other, they had no intention of fighting, and they deliberately kept their distance. So they were at peace and nothing happened. After flying for a few more hours, he finally saw a huge mountain. Without thinking too much, Lin Changqing immediately approached the top of the mountain. Unexpectedly, when he was about to approach the top of the mountain, several monks suddenly appeared. Lin Changqing was shocked. He thought these people were here to ambush him. He was about to activate the Black Cloud domain and then release the second-level shocking god cicada to kill them all. Unexpectedly, one of the monks spoke first and said, "Fellow Taoist, don't do it first. We came out to see you without any ill intentions. Otherwise, we can wait until you enter our magic circle before taking action against you." When Lin Changqing heard this, he also stopped his actions, but he was still cautious and retreated a distance. Then he said, "Fellow Taoists, what do you mean by this?" Unexpectedly, as soon as he finished speaking, several more people appeared, one of whom was Song Jiangsu. Song Jiangsu said, "Fellow Taoist Zhang, don't be nervous. We are somewhat of an acquaintance, so let me answer your questions. We came out to see you because we want to get fellow Taoist Zhang to join us and go get the treasure together." Lin Changqing was very surprised when he heard this. For something like getting the treasure, shouldn't the fewer people there are, the better? Now, with him included, there are already 8 people here. What kind of treasure is enough for so many people to share? Could it be? Lin Changqing took a serious look at Song Jiangsu, and then he said, "That's nonsense. Fellow Taoist Song, please explain clearly, otherwise, I won't agree to you." Song Jiangsu also looked at him, chuckled and said, "Don't worry, I won't lie to you. Let me tell you a little bit. I have an auspicious blue-eyed golden rhinoceros beast in the second order great perfection realm. This kind of auspicious spiritual beast can naturally sense all kinds of treasures. This time my spiritual beast reacted very strongly, and it was with its guidance that I came here yesterday. After communicating with it, I knew that the treasure was under this giant peak, and it was a wood treasure. So I guessed that below there is a great possibility that it is the fourth order spiritual object wood tooth crystal mentioned by Senior Lin Changqing. Chapter 572 Xianji Mansion. When Lin Changqing heard this, he couldn't believe it. How could such a coincidence happen? In addition, Song Jiangsu's previous attitude was not like this. He was not a fool who couldn't walk when he saw a beautiful female cultivator, so he still wouldn't believe them easily. So he continued to ask, "Why didn't you take the treasure yesterday, but waited until today, and also called so many fellow Taoists? As far as I know, even if there are really wood tooth crystals below, it is estimated that there are only 6 at most. Why did you call so many fellow Taoists?" After hearing Lin Changqing's question, Song Jiangsu said with a smile, "It is very normal for fellow Taoist Zhang to have such doubts. Because when I arrived here yesterday, it was already very late, and it was not suitable to take the treasure directly. So I decided to wait until today during the day to do it. Unexpectedly, so many black crystal marching ants suddenly appeared last night. And the fatal thing is that there is an entrance and exit to the army ant nest under this giant peak. Last night, I saw with my own eyes that countless first-order marching ants and thousands of second-order marching ants were going in and out below. So if you really want to take the treasure, you must gather as many people as possible, otherwise you may never come back. This is the situation. Fellow Taoist Zhang believes it now, right?" Song Jiangsu said so much, although she explained the situation clearly, she really didn't move Lin Changqing. And since he knew there was a treasure below, why did he have to join forces with them? It was a very good choice for him to take the initiative or to reap the benefits in the end. He didn't have to let Song Jiangsu lead him by the nose. So when Lin Changqing was about to refuse with a calm face, Song Jiangsu continued, "Of course, the most important thing is that although this space is not very stable, and there are free and uncertain space cracks everywhere, but as far as the current situation is concerned, it will take a lot of time for the space to collapse, maybe 1 month or 2 months. It may also be 100 years, 200 years, or even 1,000 years. How much lifespan do we have as foundation building cultivators, so we can't afford it at all. I wonder if fellow Taoist Zhang has discovered this giant mountain? It is almost located in the center of the entire secret realm. And the wood treasure under the mountain, according to my speculation, is likely to be the suppression object that maintains the stability of this space. Once this treasure is taken away or destroyed by us, then this space will naturally fall apart quickly. And as long as we use this space to collapse, we will definitely break the principle of the space barrier and strive for a ray of life for all of us. Otherwise, everyone will either feed the marching ants or be trapped here in the end. So even if it is not for the treasure, please ask fellow Taoist Zhang to abandon other prejudices and strive for a chance to escape for yourself." After listening to Song Jiangsu's words, Lin Changqing looked at her differently. At least when he met Song Jiangsu before, she was very cold and should have a very cold personality. Now, for this chance to escape, he had to restrain his personality preferences. Standing up firmly and organizing as many people as possible made Lin Changqing admire him. So he hesitated for a while, but still asked, "If we see that the treasure is really the wood tooth crystal in the end, how do you plan to distribute it, Brother Song?" After hearing what he said, Song Jiangsu already agreed and was very happy. So he smiled and said, "When it really comes to that time, it must be a matter of equal means. Are you still thinking that others will give it to you?" Hearing this answer, Lin Changqing was overjoyed. In this case, there is nothing wrong with agreeing to join them. So he said very straightforwardly, "Okay. I agree to join this action, but the final treasure, everyone will use their own means," and Song Jiangsu and the others were very happy to hear that another cultivator joined, so their chances of survival would naturally be greater. After all, only the cultivators who had seen the ant-tide yesterday knew how terrifying these little creatures were. Song Jiangsu chuckled and nodded, saying, "That's great. I'll introduce these companions to fellow Taoist Zhang. I just met them today. This is Li Yaoshu, fellow Taoist Li. This is Yu Chuji, fellow Taoist Yi, It took a little time for Lin Changqing and the other 6 people to get to know each other. They all greeted each other. But they were just acquaintances, and there was no deep friendship. After getting to know everyone, Lin Changqing asked, "Now we have 8 people, so when are we going to take the treasure?" Song Jiangsu thought for a while and said, "Now, including you, there are only 8 people, which is still too few. Let's wait for 2 more days. No matter how many people there are in 2 days, we will choose to start at night when the black crystal marching ants come out to forage and the nest is relatively empty. Otherwise, the whole cave is full of marching ants. Even if we summon 500 monks, there is no possibility of success." Hearing that it only takes 2 more days, Lin Changqing nodded and said nothing more. Then, together with everyone, they entered the magic circle where they had just been invisible. Unexpectedly, when he went in, Lin Changqing was very surprised. There was actually a 3-courtyard Xianji mansion inside. What is Xianji mansion? In fact, it can be understood as a low-level portable cave mansion. However, this kind of portable cave mansion, although it has certain special attributes, does not have any growth potential. When it was refined, it was of any scale, and it will be of any scale in the future, but the only advantage is that it is convenient for travel. And it is also possible to use this portable cave to prearrange the magic array. When the portable cave is released, the corresponding magic array is naturally arranged. Therefore, some Xianji mansions are specially refined into mobile war fortresses. The most important thing is that this kind of Xianji mansion is a very rare thing. It is a special product of the Xianji Pavilion, a supersect in Zuanayan continent. Even the most ordinary Xianji mansion is definitely more expensive than a 3rd-level magic weapon. Ordinary cultivators can't afford it at all, and of course it is difficult to buy it. This Xianji mansion, as well as the auspicious blue-eyed golden rhinoceros mentioned just now, plus the knowledge far beyond ordinary cultivators, these things are simply not something that ordinary cultivators can have. So this also reminded Lin Changqing that Song Jiangsu is definitely not a casual cultivator. Her roots are very unusual, and she may be a person of great origin. Chapter 573, Only 1 out of 10 survives. Now he also had some reaction. Just now Song Jiangsu said that the final treasure depends on each person's means. She should be very confident in her own strength, so she said that. This made Lin Changqing sort out his thoughts in an instant and confirmed that Song Jiangsu was a strong opponent. However, he still couldn't help asking, "Fellow Taoist Song, is this Xianji mansion yours? Are you a disciple of Xianji Pavilion?" Song Jiangsu shook her head and chuckled, "I am not a disciple of Xianji Pavilion, but my ancestor did have some connection with Xianji Pavilion in the past. This Xianji mansion was also lent to me by the elders of the family when they saw that I needed to go out for a period of time. Fortunately, there was this Xianji mansion yesterday, and it was arranged with a 3rd-level soul-gathering array, so I was not discovered by the marching ants, otherwise it would be estimated that I would have a bad end." Lin Changqing nodded and said nothing. There is a 3rd-level soul-gathering array here, so there must be other 3rd-level magic arrays. It is the safest place in the secret realm. The 8 people went into a living room to rest. Song Jiangsu, as the host, was ordering tea for everyone. Watching her graceful movements, Lin Changqing thought of Chen Ziya. It has been almost 7 months since she came out, and he didn't know how she is doing now. Looking at the fragrant 2nd-level spiritual tea in front of him, Lin Changqing hesitated, but still picked it up and tasted it. Unexpectedly, this spiritual tea tasted slightly bitter at first, a little sweet after the aftertaste, and a hint of sweetness and coolness after entering the throat, which felt pretty good. Lin Changqing felt that this spiritual tea was quite unique, so he asked, "Fellow Taoist Song, what kind of spiritual tea is this?" "It feels really good," Song Jiangsu chuckled and said, "This is the 3-flavor tea I planted myself. I named it randomly. If fellow Taoist Zhang likes it, just drink a few more cups." Lin Changqing thought that he had a special tea maker, and he could also add some new varieties of spiritual tea to the inner space, so that this industry would be diversified in the future. So he chuckled and said, "This 3-flavor tea is quite interesting. I really like it and it suits my taste. Since it was planted by fellow Taoist Song, I wonder if there are any spirit seeds. Can you give me a few? I will exchange them with spirit stones or other things." Song Jiangsu hesitated for a moment after hearing this, and finally said, "Since fellow Taoist Zhang likes it, I will give you 3 spirit seeds. As for spirit stones and other things, forget it." 3-flavor tea is not a very precious thing. It is not worth worrying about it at all. After saying that, he took out a jade box from the storage bag, took out 3 spirit seeds from it, and gave them to Lin Changqing. After getting the spirit seeds, he regretted it a little. If others gave him things for no reason, wouldn't he owe them a favor? Thinking that he couldn't do this, he also took out a bottle of 1 Jinshugo wine from the storage bag and gave it to Song Jungsu. Then he said, I accepted this spiritual seed sent by fellow Taoist Song. This is the spiritual wine I brewed myself. I will give it back to fellow Taoist Song to taste. This is brewed with 100-year-old Zhu fruit. I usually don't want to use it. I only take a little bit when practicing. Fellow Taoist Song can try the effect when he has time. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone was paying attention to it. This was obviously a good thing. It should be no problem to use it instead of the elixir for cultivation. Someone immediately asked and wanted to exchange some 100-year-old Zhu fruit wine with Lin Changqing. Unfortunately, Lin Changqing himself didn't have enough, so how could he exchange it for them? So Lin Changqing refused everyone on the pretext that the quantity was limited and there was only 1 bottle left. Song Jungsu looked at the spiritual wine in her hand and chuckled. She was so smart that she immediately understood what Lin Changqing meant. She just didn't want to owe her a favor, so as not to be unable to let go when fighting for the treasure in 2 days. So after thanking her, she put away the spiritual wine in her hand. Although Lin Changqing refused everyone's request to exchange Zhu fruit wine, it ruined the atmosphere a bit. But it was rare to have so many fellow practitioners, so everyone couldn't help but communicate with each other. They talked about some problems and insights encountered in cultivation. After listening to others sharing and verifying each other, they also gained some side effects. So Lin Changqing was not stingy and took out some of his understandings that did not involve the fundamental law and were irrelevant to share with others. It was not until it was completely dark outside that this kind of communication stopped, because the black crystal marching ants were going to come out to find food. Although there should not be too much of a problem with the cover of the 3rd level magic array, everyone was still not in the mood to continue the communication, so everyone dispersed. Lin Changqing did not rest last night, so he asked Song Jungsu to assign him a room so that he could have a good rest. After Song Jungsu left, Lin Changqing also released 24 2nd-level purple crystal scorpions, which were invisible and protected him in the room. After all, this is someone else's territory, so no matter how cautious you are, it is not too much. Just like this, 2 days passed in a flash. In the past 2 days, 4 more monks found this place, and under the persuasion of everyone, they all agreed to stay and participate in the underground cave treasure operation. Moreover, the monks who came later also brought him a message that it is now difficult to meet monks in the secret realm. The number of surviving monks is very small, and it may not even reach 1 in 10. In other words, even if the 12 of them are counted now, there may be less than 50 monks left in the entire secret space. This makes everyone except Lin Changqing feel particularly urgent. In the past 2 days, Lin Changqing has been recuperating and has considered what strength to show this time. After all, if he is too strong in a team, the rest of the people will unconsciously be defensive against him. It is even possible to unite against him, so he doesn't want to show too much. After all, the treasure this time is likely to be the 4th level wood tooth crystal. If you can really get one, for a casual cultivator, it will definitely change your fate. This thing is also very important to him, so this time he is the one who takes the responsibility. The goal is to get at least 1 wood fang crystal. Of course, if possible, the more the better. So this time, he decided to only use the Moen Dao. A set of 3 talents golden light sword, and a few defensive spiritual tools. Thunder magic and all the thunder attribute spiritual tools are not needed. The 2nd-level purple crystal scorpion and the shocking cicada will not be released this time. After all, there are too many people and eyes, so as not to leak the news. Besides, using them to deal with the antite is not very effective, but if used against monks, the effect is very obvious. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 574 Breaking into the Cave. We'll see what happens in the end. If the purple crystal scorpion or the shocking god cicada is really needed, Lin Changqing will not be soft-hearted and will definitely not leave any hidden dangers for himself. And in terms of mana, he must also be reserved. The total amount of mana in his Danshan is several times that of others. Therefore, he can only use about 30% at most, and then he must pretend to recover his mana, otherwise others will definitely notice something unusual. At the agreed time, everyone consciously appeared in the hall. As the owner and organizer here, Song Jiangsu stood up without hesitation. After inspecting everyone, he said, "I won't talk about other things. Wait a minute, when the Black Crystal Army ants leave the cave and come out to look for food, we will lurk in. Try not to make any noise, and don't cause too much spiritual power fluctuation. After all, army ants are very sensitive to these. Although being discovered is a certainty, if we can be discovered later, our chances will be greater, so everyone should pay attention. And now we have 12 people. I suggest that we divide them into 3 groups. One group will lead each time, one group will be in the middle, and one group will be the rear guard. Everyone will take turns to advance to ensure that others have time to recover the consumed mana. If there is no problem, I will start grouping now." Seeing everyone nodded in agreement. Then the 12 people were divided into 3 groups. Lin Changqing and Song Jiangsu were in the same group, and their group was responsible for leading first. The remaining Yi Chuji and Li Yaoshu were responsible for one group each. Now Yi Chuji's group was in the middle, and Li Yaoshu and others were the rear guard. Everything was ready, and all that was left was waiting. Sure enough, after midnight, a large black torrent gushed out of a cave under the giant peak. Everyone was watching from the top of the peak. Although it was not the first time they had seen it, many people were still so scared that their hair stood up. It took about 3/4 of an hour for the black torrent to disappear, but everyone did not act immediately, but waited for a while. After the Black Crystal Army ants left a little further away, Song Jiangsu took back the Xianji Palace. Then everyone quietly went down the giant peak and touched the cave. Fortunately, everything went smoothly without making too much noise, and everyone successfully touched the entrance of the cave. Lin Changqing and his group were responsible for taking the lead and went in first without any hesitation. Fortunately, the entrance of the cave was still relatively large. It was about 2 feet in radius, enough for 4 people to move forward side by side. When they got here, no one dared to be careless, and all of them were fully aware of their spirits. After entering the cave, they found that it was a natural karst cave, and it became wider and wider inside. However, perhaps because the army ants often went in and out, there were many uneven places that were originally polished very smooth and flat. It was fine for a few dozen feet at first, but Lin Changqing discovered that this underground cave went downwards. After 100 feet, they began to encounter army ants. It was like poking a hornet's nest. Although they had killed all the army ants they encountered at the fastest speed and did not give them the opportunity to pass on the message. But for some reason, their whereabouts were still exposed. The army ants in the underground cave were pouring towards them. At this time, it was useless to cover up. The group that took the lead immediately let go of their hands and feet. In fact, everyone tried to attack with spiritual weapons just now. Although it was effective, it was not obvious for the army ants that rushed up crazily. Therefore, everyone is now bombarding with spells. Black Crystal Army ants belong to dark attribute creatures, so among the 5 elements of spells, fire spells have the greatest lethality to them, followed by gold spells. Now Lin Changqing is maintaining the defense of his body, and then shooting left and right, bombarding with fireballs. His fireball technique has reached the realm of great perfection, and the telekinesis technique has been completed. However, he still controlled the speed and maintained the level of 1 fireball per breath. His fireball was quite powerful. Each fireball that hit the ground could clear a space of 10 feet in radius. However, the dead army ants would burst out a dark green thick liquid and emit a pungent and unpleasant smell, forcing everyone to use magic power to block their sense of smell. Among the 4 people in Lin Changqing's group who took the lead, 3 could use fire spells, and only Song Jiangsu had been using fire talismans. Lin Changqing guessed that she might not have fire spiritual roots, so she needed to do this. After a period of running in, the 4 people cooperated more and more tacitly, and they all used spells alternately to open the way. However, after advancing more than 100 feet, the second-order army ants also emerged, and the pressure immediately increased. However, Song Jiangsu made a prompt decision and gave up using talismans to attack. He immediately switched to spiritual tools to kill the second-order army ants, allowing others to open the way with peace of mind. However, as they continued to go deeper, the number of second-order army ants continued to increase. This forced Lin Changqing to do two things at once. He used the fireball spell while manipulating the three talents golden light sword to kill the second-order marching ants. However, he did not want to be too prominent, so he deliberately reduced the attack frequency of the fireball spell. In this way, the four people who took the lead, under such high intensity and high consumption, advanced more than 200 feet again, and the mana in the Danshan had already consumed 6 or 7 layers. Song Jungsu immediately shouted, and the group of Yichuji in the middle took over, and then Lin Changqing's group retreated to the last position to restore mana. At this time, except for Lin Changqing, everyone took the second-order soul recovering pill, and also grabbed a few medium-grade spirit stones in their hands, trying their best to recover. Seeing that everyone was like this, Lin Changqing could only follow suit, otherwise, others would definitely discover his abnormality. In the heat wave and the sound of explosions, everyone finally advanced a distance, and 2 forks appeared in front. And at the 2 forks, there were first and second order marching ants emerging, which was troublesome. Because it was already very difficult to move forward, if they took the wrong road again, they would probably all be left here. If the entire cave was made like a maze by the army ants, most people would probably be desperate. Fortunately, at this critical moment, Song Jungsu released a light golden rhinoceros from the spiritual beast bracelet on her hand. The body length is nearly 10 feet and the height is 6 feet. The eyes are very distinctive, a very crystal, jade-like color. And there is a layer of light golden scales on the surface of its body, and the overall look is very powerful. Lin Changqing knew that this should be the auspicious spiritual beast green-eyed golden rhinoceros that Song Jungsu said. Chapter 575, Reincarnation Spiritual Plant. Song Jungsu must have communicated with it in advance, so as soon as it came out, it immediately stopped on the ground, and then there was a circle of special fluctuations, spreading in all directions. This kind of fluctuation did not cause any harm to the surrounding army ants, but soon the blue-eyed golden rhino called out to Song Jungsu twice. Then Song Jungsu immediately pointed to the passage on the right and said, "Go this way, this is the passage to the treasure." Everyone was overjoyed and immediately went in the direction she said, but because the passage was not too spacious, the blue-eyed golden rhino was taken back by Song Jungsu. Lin Changqing felt that she must have kept a trick up her sleeve. A spiritual beast like the blue-eyed golden rhino could not have no fighting power at all. Song Jungsu took it back. In addition to wanting to protect it, she should also have the intention of preserving her strength. But he did the same thing himself, so he would not say it to others. However, after passing the first fork, their pressure immediately doubled. Because this time, both the front and the back had to face the army ants, and fortunately they exchanged positions with Li Yaojin's group. After all, they haven't fully recovered yet, so let Li Yaojin and the others hold on first to buy them some time to recover. However, as they go deeper and deeper, the pressure they bear is getting greater and greater. After all, there are more and more second-order marching ants. After going deeper than 200 feet, they encountered a fork again. After the blue-eyed golden rhino pointed out the correct direction, their pressure surged again, and they couldn't stand it in front and behind, and some people began to get injured. The stimulation of the bloody smell around made all the marching ants even more crazy. Lin Changqing and his group had to split up. The front and back sides each supported 2 people, but the pressure was still very great. Everyone had to hold the hulang pill in their mouths. They didn't care about taking too many pills in a short time and the accumulation of pill poison. In order to restore the mana in the Danshan, everyone used all their means, and many people used up the good things at the bottom of the box. Lin Changqing even saw Song Jungsu take out this Huguo wine he gave 2 days ago and took a sip directly. In this way, they were under tremendous pressure, and after passing 5 or 6 forks, someone finally couldn't stand it. The first monk who died appeared. He just reacted a little slowly and was attacked by 4 or 5 second-level army ants. He fell into the army ant pile. In a very short time, even his bones were eaten clean. It was too late to save him. After the first one, there was the second and third. Although everyone tried their best to rescue, people kept falling. After going 3 or 4 miles deeper, there were only 6 people left: Lin Changqing, Song Jungsu, Yichuji, Li Yaojin, and 2 other monks. But Yichuji and Li Yaojin were already injured, and the mana in their Danshan was also running low. Fortunately, after passing a fork, everyone finally came to the entrance of a huge cave. But when they saw the situation inside clearly, everyone except Lin Changqing turned pale. This cave is very huge, about 1 mile in radius and about the same height. In the center of the entire cave, there grows a huge spiritual plant. The trunk is rugged and winding. A bit similar to the ordinary locust tree in the secular world, but more burly and huge. The height of the whole spiritual plant is about 200 to 300 feet, but it grows luxuriantly, covering half of the sky of the entire cave. And in different positions of this spiritual plant, there are 6 fruits that are about 1 foot long, like short teeth, and crystal clear. It is the 4th level spiritual object wood tooth crystal that Lin Changqing showed them. But now no one is interested in paying attention to them, because this cave space seems to be the nest of the entire black crystal marching ants. Because the entire spiritual plant, the position below 100 feet, is surrounded by a huge black ant nest. Not only that, the ground of the cave is also covered with a thick layer of first-level marching ants, as if it is a layer of constantly surging black waves. It is estimated that if you fall down, you will definitely not be able to get up. The most fatal thing is not these. Now the entire cave space is full of at least 3,000 second-level marching ants. This is the reason why others are desperate. In the tunnel in front, because of the limited space, the second-level marching ants do not have much space to fly. On the contrary, because of their large size, they were killed by the conscious intention of the crowd. Although they also caused a lot of casualties to Lin Changqing and his men, they finally managed to deal with it. But now the cave space in front is so large, and there are so many second-order marching ants. It is simply impossible for the 6 survivors to destroy such a huge spiritual plant under the eyes of these black crystal marching ants. Fortunately, at this time, SYNOPSIS suddenly said, "Fellow Taoists, don't give up. We still have a chance. These black crystal army ants will eat up anything with a little bit of spiritual energy. Why would they let go of these 6 wood tooth crystals alone? I guess it's because these 6 wood tooth crystals cannot be moved. As far as I know, there is a special reincarnation type spiritual plant. As long as the fruit is picked after it matures, the whole spiritual plant will degenerate in an instant. In other words, it will all turn into ashes, and a new spiritual seed will be nurtured in the lying part, and then after the spiritual seed falls to the ground, the next reincarnation will begin." So because of this, the army ants did not move these 6 wood tooth crystals. There are exactly 6 of us here, and each of us only needs to pick a wood tooth crystal. Then this spiritual plant that suppresses the entire space will definitely turn into ashes in an instant, produce spiritual seeds, and enter the next reincarnation. Hearing this, everyone, including Lin Changqing, was refreshed. This news was a blessing in disguise for them. As long as everyone takes out all the tricks they have and rushes over to pick a wood fang crystal, there will be a glimmer of hope. And the current situation does not allow them to hesitate at all, because they are still stuck between the passage and the cave entrance. They are desperately resisting the army ants in front and behind, but except for Lin Changqing and SYNOPSIS, everyone is in a bad state. There is simply not enough time for them to think so much. After waiting for a while and making sure that everyone has digested the news, SYNOPSIS quickly said, "The 2 wood fang crystals farthest from here will be picked by me and fellow Taoist Zhang. As for the remaining 4, you should discuss it quickly and distribute it among yourselves. We can't hold on that long." End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.